there, Devon.
Here we go.
We've almost made it.
Is it hot in your garage?
Yeah, it's really hot in my garage.
You're in the garage?
Yeah.
We need to get some Weezer going on in my...
With no cooling, no.
If you want to destroy my sweater.
Pull this thread as I walk away.
I need my Guitar Hero.
My tools.
Let's get some Guitar Hero going.
Man, that was such a good game.
I agree.
And then they oversaturated it. It's like all Guitar Hero needed to be was a games as a service. Like either let you subscribe to have like all these different, songs and or just some of the songs and
all we need is Boston More Than a Feeling. What else do you need?
I like the Muse stuff. Knights of Sidonia.
All right, they should be able to see us. I changed over.
All right, I'll see if I can enter on this host and see if it actually hosts. It says I used it, and now I'm hosting.
Where is Freelancer Codex?
Downtown. Running an ad. I'm gonna hit share. Copy URL. I'm gonna pop out chat. Narrate everything I do.
I don't want that video.
It's not letting me. I hate everything about Internet Explorer.
Have you upgraded to the new one?
Edge browser?
Scared to.
That's what I use.
I'm on whatever it's called.
About Internet.
Like the new Microsoft Edge that's based off of Chrome.
Yep.
Have you upgraded to the new one? Oh, hear
Edge
myself.
browser?
Scared to.
That's what I use. Steven.
You can hear yourself? That should have been happening.
No, you're fine. It's me having the...
No,
it was me.
It was totally Steven. He was listening to it, checking the audio, playing it to us, and he's like, "You could hear that."
It's a game we play.
It is a game we play.
It is.
These are the games that we play.
It's Steven's white whale, being able to stream, being able to record. He is Captain Ahab.
I just want technology to work. It's like I want it to be like RTX. It just works.
Does it?
That's really all I've ever wanted, to be honest. All right. I think we might be ready to do a podcast.
Oh my goodness.
Maybe.
Dun-dun-dun.
Only if Devon says it's okay to do a podcast.
It's okay. I have the right mic connected.
I'm so glad.
Might want to try the audio check again.
Maybe we should do an audio check a den. That's how you speak.
A den?
Den. All right, here we go. In 4, 3, a 2, a 1.
You are listening to the Freelancer Codex, a podcast brought to you by the Shut Up and Respawn Network.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 126 of the Freelancer Codex podcast. I am your host, Steve, along with my co-hosts, Michael and Devon. And today we have a very special guest with us. We have Brian, or as we like to call him, Ginger Prime, or part of the duo of Work2Game. Is that correct, Brian?
Am
I
correct.
Introducing you correctly?
You have been the first person to introduce me in such a professional manner, but also to like surprise me, because it's mostly people are like, "Oh, Brian from Work2Game," or they just say Work2Game, and it's like, yeah, we're a duo, in that regards. But Ginger Prime being kind of like my solo thing, kind of all
Very
me,
cool.
all deep throat, voided, blah, 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 I don't know. Sorry, I've been drinking, everybody. PS5.
And
this has been episode 126 of the Freelancer Codex.
So just really fast for our listeners, Brian actually reached out to us, and I was able to jump on with Brian and his co-host and talk a little bit about Anthem, about the future of Anthem and what's going to happen to that game over on their channel.
Epic
And
show.
Brian has been kind enough to kind of mentor us on the podcast in regards to YouTube analytics and growing a channel, because turns out I'm real dumb when it comes to that stuff and don't know a lot. And Brian has been doing it for a while. And Brian, you recently also put out a YouTube video kind of explaining to people that want to grow their channel how to do that. Do you want to talk about
I can mention it briefly.
entails?
I just want to say, like, I've been following you guys for well over like a year and a half. Like, obviously pre-Anthem launch, you guys were just like crushing out podcasts, and I enjoyed it because it was always nice to kind of sit back, listen to you guys be excited about the game. Unfortunately, that obviously didn't work out, from like in ways, because we still all played Anthem. I still play it occasionally. Looking forward to the future of the game. So I've been a fan of your guys's for a while. And so then when we reached out, I was like, yeah, let's talk about some Anthem. So thank you for coming on the show. That was like a great show. You're real easy to talk to. It's nice being a guest and not having to like have an outline. I can just kind of ramble. But so yeah, I sat down with you guys, kind of tried to break down analytics, because I went and looked at your channel and I was like, oh man, these guys are all over the place. I'm like, I didn't want to like overstep. Like I don't want to be like, hey, I can help you. Like I can't guarantee.
You guys don't know what you're doing. You need help.
Has any of it like been helpful? Because I went and looked and I was like, you guys, your numbers looked up to me. Your thumbnails looked solid. Like it felt like you were following the advice. I don't know if you've seen any like drastic benefit from it yet, but
it has been helpful. Making sure everything is kind of streamlined, everything looks the same, titles are very similar. It has helped us feel more organized. I don't know if that's a thing, to like have a YouTube channel feel organized and feel more consolidated and unified. So in that sense, it's helped us a lot. Like producing content, we've just kind of been lacking on that just because of life stuff that's been happening. But no, it's been really good advice that we've been following. I've been following it over on the Godfall channel that I've been doing, and it's been helping a lot. So no, your advice was spot on. We're going to continue to use it, and we're going to continue to push forward, and hopefully we're going to continue to grow. So it's a lot of good advice, and anyone can go to your channel, and that video is hosted over on youtube.com/gingerprime. So
I
anyone
put that
that
out
wants
there.
the
I put that video out because it wasn't just you guys that like, I was like, hey, some other people like actually reached out and they're like, hey, I'm struggling. I've been doing this for years, or I'm trying to grow a Twitch channel, or I'm trying to, do these things. How do I go about it? And I looked at it, honestly, I looked down at it and I was like, I've always tried to be open and help people out. I believe that's, like one of the responsibilities that comes along with having what would I would say I'm still small, but when like I talk to anybody, they're like, oh no, you're large when you have over 50,000 subs. Like all of a sudden you like, that's a different, ballpark. But it's like, I realized I was like putting a lot of time individually with a lot of different creators. And then I was like, wait a minute, like I know how to make videos. Why just do this as a one-on-one? So I sat down, filmed everything, showed all my stats. You can see how much money I make, what my CPM is, what my click-through is. I explain all of those breakdowns. So if you're ever interested in content creation, highly check out that video. It's a long one. You should definitely get like a snack. And I have it in chapters, like the video itself. You can do that on YouTube now. So that way, if you're ever like wanting to jump to a specific section, you can. And I'm actually, one of the things that I'm working on that's not live yet, but that kind of relates to it, is just creating a channel focused around like education and how I edit videos, how I produce content, how I program. I'm a software engineer as a living, as a trade. And so that's like how I kind of I've always wanted to be a teacher. And I thought all of a sudden, like, oh, maybe I'll just keep teaching and have this kind of be a nice little fun, side gig of like, here's these videos that, random people watch, and then they either tell me I suck, or they say thank you. Like, I mean, that's really what you're going to get with YouTube.
Yeah.
Like,
That's what you get with the internet.
Do you ever get like any hate when you post like an Anthem video? Like, I still see people come in and like try to troll me, or try to troll people who are like, I got this game for $5 and I'm having fun. Like, do y'all see that any in your comments?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of see both of them. I think the common thing is people still play this game. I mean, that's like the most common thing, but
Yeah.
I think most people that want to troll have moved on to troll other games, so there's not as much as there used to be. But I mean, it's there.
You just need another real like big like thing that just fails, and everybody's like, all right, let's go meme on that.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the internet. But Brian, we really appreciate you coming and joining and talking Sony stuff with us today. But yeah, anyone that has questions, I mean, you're easy to reach on Twitter. You're easy to reach on your YouTube page. So if you want to start making content, Brian is a great resource for that. And like you said, there's so many people that want to create content that just don't know where to get started or don't know how, and you are a good resource to help people get started and do it the right way, unlike us who did it the wrong way for 2+ years. So take our advice, go to someone like Brian and figure out how to start off on the right foot and not on the wrong trail in the wrong country. So all right, so let's jump into this really quick. If you want to leave us a message, you can do that at anchor.fm/freelancercodex, or you can just drop us an email at freelancercodex@gmail.com. And we really want to thank our patrons that have been supporting us over at patreon.com/freelancercodex. Thanks to Julius, Nathan B, Michael R, Trent B, Manin Still, Scout69, Dragonheart76, Jeffrey H, and the Gameplay Experience. We got all of our challenge coins sent out for our patrons that support us at a certain tier. So I'm trying to figure out what our challenge coin is going to be this week. If it's going to be, there's a lot of things we can focus it on. So I'm still kind of kicking around ideas. And then also this week, Devon and I it was last week, wasn't it, Devon? We had a really cool opportunity to sit down with the CEO of Whitemoon Dreams, which is a game development studio, which is a publisher of video games. And they do a lot of research and development for Xbox, Nintendo, and PlayStation. So that interview is with Jay Koottarappallil. I think that's how you say his name. His name is very difficult to say, but he is the CEO.
It was a lot of fun.
Devon and I got to sit down with him for an hour. I've known Jay for a while because I've communicated with him probably around 2013, because Whitemoon Dreams started developing War Machine Tactics, which is a video game based around a tabletop game that the three of us played for a really long time. And I reached out to him, started talking with him and the team a while ago. And I said, hey, let's see if Jay would like to come on and just kind of talk about War Machine Tactics. We talked about how he got started in the industry. Turns out he wrote a game when he was 8 years old, pitched it to Sega, and they wanted to pick it up. But his parents were like, no, we don't think so. So he started very early into game development. 8 years old,
he was going to push the game out, and they're like, nah.
Yeah. And that's like something that we all dream of. Like, we make a game and Sony pick it up. That would be awesome. So we sat down and talked with him about his experience, sat down and talked a little bit about War Machine Tactics. We're going to play that interview at the end of the show. We'll tack that on for the podcast feed and for the YouTube feed. And the nice thing is we're also going to spend time talking with Jay in the future and with a couple more people from Whitemoon Dreams. So Whitemoon Dreams helped develop Concrete Genie, which is the VR game that came out recently for PlayStation VR. They also worked on, there's another VR game that they did.
The VR game was number one for May. Just this last one that they just did.
Yep, that's Concrete Genie. But there's another one I'm forgetting the name of the spaceships that they fly around. So we're gonna add that interview on at the end. It's a really good listen. I think one of the cool things that we are doing here on the Freelancer Codex is when we talk to developers, it's more of a conversation instead of an interview, because here we really believe that developers are people and humans make games, and oftentimes we forget that. So getting to know developers for us is really important, because we like just talking to people about video games, but knowing that, hey, maybe you shouldn't send Jay a death threat just because the way that this unit moves in game is not the way you think it should move, right?
Yep.
So we're going to keep doing that. We have a couple more interviews coming down the line, and we're really excited to share those with you. All right, so let's jump in. Instead of talking about the things that we've been playing, because I could tell you the story that I lost, 20,000 souls playing Dark Souls 3 this morning because my monitor decided to turn off at the wrong time. Instead of telling you about that, which is super frustrating and made me want to cry on stream, I guess you could go watch it on stream if you wanted to do that.
Should make a clip of it.
Watch the soul crushing moment.
I did. There is a clip. There's a clip over on twitch.com/freelancercodex. We are affiliated now over on Twitch, so you can drop us your free Prime sub, and that'll help out the podcast a lot. But instead of doing that, let's jump in and talk about the Sony news, because Sony dropped their state of play today. And there's over 26 games, and now it's time to kind of dive in, and I would like to get everyone's opinions on what they saw. If you have a question, if you have a comment, jump in here, but let's talk about this. So first thing, they kicked it off with Grand Theft Auto 5, expanded and enhanced for PlayStation 5, with free money coming to people that own the game right now up until the launch on PlayStation 5. And in my mind, all I was thinking about is this is just another way to keep Grand Theft Auto 5 on top of the NPD charts because they're going to release it for a new console and people are going to have to buy it for a new console.
Three
right?
console generations. Came out on the 360 PS3 era and came out on current gen. Now it's coming out again. I mean, it's coming out for the Xbox Series X as well. And I mean, yeah, Sony loves to spend that money on marketing deals. What can you say?
So, it's the number one game, like year over year over year, month over month.
They make billions of dollars off of people buying crap and playing online.
Even selling, like the game still sells.
Well,
like, has it even come down in price?
Because what happens is when it's cheaper to buy the game when it comes with so much money than it is to buy the money in game. So the people are buying the $35 game that comes with so much money when you buy it. Because a couple of guys I used to work with would just buy the game over and over and over again because they were just buying cars and all kinds of crap online. And so they're like, yeah, it's just cheaper to buy the game because the amount of money they give you when you buy the game is cheaper than actually buying that amount of money in the game.
That's crazy.
So that's why they have such a huge boost in sales. I mean, the two guys I know, they bought, I think, 30 copies a piece. So,
jeez.
Wow.
I mean, they're spending like thousands of dollars a year. Like, they're just buying digital copies. It doesn't matter. You just buy it again.
I know, but do they hand out the digital codes to other people to share the love so people can jump in? Or
no, they don't care. They're just buying it and getting the codes for the money.
So, like, congratulations to Rockstar. GTA 5 is not something that I jumped into, not something I'm interested in jumping into. I'm glad everyone is having fun in there because it seems that like there's a lot of fun stuff happening in that game if you are invested in that world. And they're going to continue to support it, obviously, bringing it over to PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. So, yeah, good on them. This kind of an interesting opener to me, opening with something that is cross-platform for this event. I don't know. That was just kind of weird thing to me.
I mean, it kind of goes against what they were putting on blasts on the internet, right? Like, we make a new console, we want you to have new experiences that you can't play anywhere else. But we're going to start the show with the third generation game.
Yeah, just so everyone knows, Devon's had a headache for 4 hours. So if he is a little bit more salty than before, he's also an Xbox ambassador. So, just keep that in the back of your mind. So let's jump on to the next thing, and I want to hear everyone's thoughts on this. So Spider-Man.
I give an unbiased opinion, Steven. Right?
Oh, I know. I'm excited for that too. So Spider-Man Miles Morales is going to launch on PlayStation 5 holiday 2020.
I'm excited. I just the fact that they're bringing Miles Morales to the just having his own game. Somebody was like, "Oh, they don't have a 2 at the end." It's like they don't need a 2. It's like it's excellent. Like this looks so good. My friend just let me borrow his PlayStation because mine died, and I was like, I'll wait till PS5. And Spider-Man was one of these games that I just really was like, oh man, I'm missing that. And so I was like, maybe I'll just play it now. But regardless, I was like seeing that. And then, with my son, I'm just looking forward to being like, yeah, let's just go, fly around as Spider-Man, have a good time.
Mike, are you excited about Miles Morales?
I am very much so. Definitely loved the movie when it came out. Love his story and just the new take. Love the costumes and all that. Pretty excited to get into it and see how it do, and just super excited. I mean, I think it's cool. I think it's cool that we're still getting superhero games. I really enjoy them, and I'm looking forward to seeing this one. Hopefully they follow some of the movie art styling, because that was just amazing and beautiful to look at. So really excited to see how it goes.
Yeah, so I don't think they're going to be following much of that. I think this is going to be following. I mean, it's almost a sequel to Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man game that came out recently on PlayStation 4. What was it, year and a half ago?
It's about a year and a half. So it'd be like, I think officially 2 years technically being out. So this is a good base,
Yeah. So seeing everything that we saw about this, and this is just pure speculation. This seems like it looks like it's kind of almost like a bigger. I don't know if we say DLC or expansion nowadays, depending on what this is, but it feels like an expansion to that first Spider-Man game, right? So I'm guessing that's why maybe there's not a 2 on it. This is just, hey, this is Miles' story set in. I don't know if they're using the same engine, but it looks like this is going to be a continuation that Miles is going to take over He's going to start doing his hero thing. And like Mike said, like playing off of Into the Spider-Verse, which is super popular, easily the best superhero movie that we've had in a really long time. It's going to capitalize off of that. So yeah, I'm excited to finally, you know, I'll play through Spider-Man when I pick up my PlayStation 5, and then I'll play through Spider-Man Miles Morales. But yeah, I'm excited for this. I mean, this is an easy win for Sony and Insomniac Studios. Like, hey, the first game was super successful. I think it sold more. I think it was the best-selling PlayStation game ever, if I'm not mistaken. I'd have to go back and look and double check that. But it's one of the best-selling PlayStation titles. But yeah, excited for that. So if anyone, Devon, anything to say? What's up, Danger?
No, I mean it looks good. You know, I mean I want to see some more gameplay. I want to see what really. I mean, so this is one of the games I'm guessing that you know it's not going to do as good as the original, because if it's only on PlayStation 5, it's not going to be able to sell as many copies because the install base obviously won't be as big.
Correct.
But I'm interested to see.
But though, isn't that like if it's the same engine, if it is, rather than do a 2 built on a whole, like really like put in the work, they can go and make this and take what they've already built, enhance it, and knowing that it's going out to, you know, a smaller like people, because even when PS5 launches, depending even on the price that we don't know, it's still going to be limited. Like no matter what, like you're not going to have an install base of 80 million PS5s this November. You know, it's impossible.
Yeah, no, I mean that's the tricky thing, and then I mean especially if they're designing for their SSD and the speeds and being able to load everything, you know they just can't go from, if you design with the PlayStation 5 in mind and actually design for that in mind, it's trying to go back to regular hard drives just won't work. And so I'm interested to see. I mean, it's definitely, when I get a PS5, this is one of the games I'm going to play on it, but you know, there was probably 3 or 4 games that I was really interested in from the conference, and that was one of them. And it looks really cool. I liked the movie. I really enjoyed the movie. I'm interested to see where they take the story, and
yeah, I'm guessing it's probably not going to be Into the Spider-Verse story, but
no, I don't think so. I think it'll be connected with their universe that they're doing.
I wonder if we'll see an enhanced version of the current, like with the fact that they showed off Spider-Man running on PS5 hardware, where he could actually swing through the level at like a jet, you know, jet speed and not have to worry about loading.
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it'll probably be one of the mini.
It's one of the 100 that
games.
Probably come over. Yeah.
But that's more to talk about later when they actually talk about.
When they actually tell us how that system is going to work. All right. So every console generation at launch needs a car racing game. Sony's is going to be Gran Turismo 7. We don't know if it's coming out at launch. They didn't say when that is releasing, but Gran Turismo 7 is going to be coming to the PlayStation 5. It's a racing game, so I don't care that much. I don't know. So I will defer the table to other people that actually like racing games more than I do, if we have any here at the table.
Yeah, I love racing games. I think though Forza has taken the crown. Turismo was like it was so incredible. Growing up as a kid, I remember playing that a lot. It's the sequels and more, and eventually it felt like it lost its cadence. It wasn't like, okay, now there's not going to be a full release at this launch, so it's going to be this partial release, and then all of a sudden you have Forza, you know, and the Forza Horizon like just starting to pump out like an incredible experience that does damage to the cars. It just started doing more. And so what I would actually be looking for, like if I was going to evaluate picking up a new Gran Turismo game, I would have to say, like, what is their AI and like asynchronous multiplayer doing? The fact that I can go play Forza and I'm racing against my friends, you know, in that regards is very like inviting. I really enjoy that. And then if Turismo didn't even meet those kind of requirements, I think I'd be like, okay, well, why play this one when I already have all of this as a part of my Game Pass anyway? So it's going to be a hard sell for they have to do something so dramatic. And what they showed off gameplay wise, it's a racing game. I happen to enjoy them, but you know, like I didn't see that it factor or that why is this on PlayStation 5? You know?
I think for me, I was expecting, so obviously like Sony's choice for the stream at 1080 1080p 30 frames per second was not for me was not a good choice, right? Like this game did not look good at 1080p on 30, but when you watch the 4K 60 version, it looks much nicer, but still it just looked like Forza Horizon 7 on current gen consoles. It didn't like amaze me like, hey, this is next gen, cars and stuff. Like when they're zooming in, like if you watch it, and I noticed this when I first watched the 4K one, when you're zooming in, they're showing all the toggles and the knobs and everything else, but several of their knobs are all janky and not nice and round. I was like, what? Why are you focusing on this when it's not, looking good? So, yeah. I mean, I know it's the inside of the car, and a lot of people aren't going to see that, but when you're putting that in your trailer to show it off, you don't want to show off something that looks like it's can just run normally on current gen consoles.
I mean, there's a lot of people that drive in first person view, so they're going to be seeing the inside of there. I was watching the stream at 720p while I was running on my treadmill, so I mean, it all looked blurry to me anyway. But one of the things that I'm really surprised that Sony did not focus on is the ray tracing aspect.
Well,
I'm surprised because like there's no mention of it. So you never know if like, okay, is this like what kind of lighting? Is this dynamic lighting? Is this ray trace?
Ratchet and Clank.
They did say it was Ratchet and Clank that that Clank himself was
ray
like
trace
ray
reflections.
Yeah. Like and that was specifically said on him, but like all the other games, like a ray trace racing game, I mean that's like the dream, right?
You see
all the
that
reflections coming off the car. And I would just thought it was interesting that like it was only mentioned one time. All right. I know Mike, you love the Forza games. So I mean, is this something like, hey, Gran Turismo is going to replace Forza for you?
No.
Okay.
Racing games are racing games, right? They're, I mean, cars, driving cool cars. You get to drive. It's I don't think I actually haven't played Turismo, so I don't have too many out. I don't think I've ever played it, so I don't have any thing to compare to. But Forza's fine, and really, how different can racing games be, right? I mean, they're cars. They have steering wheels. You drive. So
I'd like to see them kind of take and try to do like a Forza, like as a games as a service, as a shared world.
Yeah.
You've got your car. There's varying races that you like enter, and then you get like auto placed into varying, things that both asynchronously and while you're active. There's essentially this world that you're kind of participating in. I think I would like to see that. That's where I think Horizon's been going. That's where I think Forza's been going. They haven't fully committed because I didn't think probably the technology was there. I don't even know if the demand is there for that kind of thing. But when I look at like what games do I continually play, it's games that there's some kind of living social aspect, both behind the scenes and in front of, while playing the game itself. Because like if you're going to go to a racing game and all of a sudden you get a flight simulator, you're like, this is not what I was expecting. And then that's not an improvement. Like in real life, if my car could fly, that would be an improvement. If I'm playing a racing game and it all of a sudden stops like doing the thing that I'm expecting and does something different, like that would be kind of shocking. But it's that's essentially what I would like to see. I think as much as some people here groan whenever people bring up games as a service, it's like, well, what game are you playing? Like, it's like, oh, I take a break and I go play the single player game for a week, and then I'm back in Destiny or Final Fantasy or WoW or whatever, and then I go bitch about it, because that's a part of the game. It's like you got to complain about it. Otherwise, you can't.
That is the game.
Creator on YouTube.
Yeah. So I think the nice thing about the racing games, like there are people that like the people that just play Madden or just play NBA or whatever. There are people that just play racing games and they have their rigs. Like I'm jealous of people that have their own racing rigs because that's cool when you see their setups with their wheels and their pedals. Like, man, that would be cool to have. That would be fun to have. All right, so let's move on. The next thing, and these aren't in any particular order. These are just the things that I wanted to pull out. So Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. This game had a ton of stuff going on in it, like tons of particle effects. They talked about the ray tracing on Clank, pulling dimensions forward, going to different areas. Like this game looked like, all right, this is your Mario launch title, right?
Yeah.
Every Nintendo game has to launch. Every Nintendo console has to launch with the Mario game. Ratchet and Clank is going to be that title that, hey, buy this for your kids, jump in, get in, play. And it looked like a lot of fun. I thought it looked like fun. I think my kids will really like it. So
Here's what stood out to me, and I was saying because like I was watching it with my this presentation with my wife and kids, who then I had to send out for some games because I was like, oh, this looks creepy. Kids, get out of the room. All right, oh, we got Ratchet and Clank, come back in. All right, okay, get out. Like they were really confused as to why they had to randomly get. But no, so we're watching it, and for me, from a technical perspective, we talk about just the incredible SSD and the loading speed, right? So from the dimensional perspective, when he hits that dimensional wall, and you see that like 2 seconds, 1 second of you're in this weird purple dimension, and then all of a sudden, boom, you're in a whole other level. And I was like, that is cool. We talked about Spider-Man. I was going to bring this up with Ratchet and Clank, is that when you think about like if they ever do a Spider-Verse, into the Spider-Verse kind of perspective, where you could literally hop from different whole areas, and that loading that happens during, I was like, whenever like he hit that purple, and then you see kind of the glass shards, and and then all of a sudden you're booming the level. I was like, that's the loading. That was a second long to load up a whole other level. And that's them showing through Ratchet and Clank the power of their SSD. And that in and of itself is that design philosophy. They're not hiding it behind some mountain. The mountain happens to be a very short period of you're in an interdimensional kind of tube. And so that's something I was interesting. The thing that did stand out to me that I was like, it's going to always be how it feels. Like you can show me gameplay, like especially with combat, but if it doesn't feel good, then I'm just like, all right, next. But him teleporting kind of to these things felt a little weird, like even in watching it. And maybe we can't actually teleport. I don't know. Maybe that's exactly how it would feel if you teleported. Because I felt disoriented from when he would jump to a spot, and then I was like having to learn and readjust. And then honestly, I was like, I don't, obviously it's early, but I was like, I wonder if that's something they get fixed or what happens with that. But I actually felt disoriented with that, and I didn't see the value in that in him teleporting. I was like, just run there. It feels like you're saving half a second. I don't know.
But just run there. It is nice to finally see like, okay, if this is what is possible, like they're finally showing us, like you said, instead of just talking about it, because I'm really tired of people talking about it and telling me how fast like an IO speed is for the because it doesn't matter unless it's used well in a game. So I'm glad we're at least trying to, starting to get a glimpse at it. So, hey, this is like you're buying a PlayStation 5, you got kids. This, it'd be awesome if, consoles came packed with games like they did a long, long time ago. But hey, Ratchet and Clank looks cool. And if, Clank is ray traced, I mean, there was a lot of stuff going on in there. Like, playing Control on a 2080 Ti, there's a lot of ray tracing. There's a lot of stuff going on. And even then you're like, okay, but there was a lot of stuff going on in Ratchet and Clank. It looked pretty cool. So
I like the explosions and all, the physics, everything looked really nice on it. I think it was definitely one of the better looking games, even though it was cartoony and had that style of visuals. But, I thought it was one of the better looking and more polished, but maybe that's because a lot of the games aren't.
Oh, yeah, it definitely was
polished. I love the art direction in that regards. I think one of the things is like, somebody was like, I want photorealism. It's like, I want good art direction. I want something that looks just, and it all complements. And they showed off a couple of games like that. I forget the name of it, but it was that really stylized one, kind of with that white godlike creature and all the red. I was like, this looks great. Like,
oh yeah, wait for it, Ghostwire.
Yeah, cool. So the next game that they showed off, Project Athia. I don't know if that's just the actual project name or if it's going to get renamed.
I hope it gets renamed.
This is coming out in either next year or 2022. This is from the publisher Square Enix, from Luminous Productions.
Yeah, those are the guys who did 15.
That did what?
Final Fantasy 15. So Luminous Studios is the branch of Square Enix that worked and published Final Fantasy 15. Here's what I'm noticing about that, and I'm probably going to make a video on it sometime maybe next week, is that so Lumina, like they use what's called the Luminous engine. Like Square Enix has always kind of built their own in-house engine. However, more recently, Square Enix has also been using more Unreal Engine as it's moved forward with some of their other titles. And so I'm wondering if like Luminous Studios is like, this is them with their own engine doing their own like thing from the ground up, and then like if you start seeing some of their other games more relying on Unreal, but that's not necessarily going to be a disadvantage because Unreal has just been crushing it this whole generation and even into next with Unreal 5. But it kind of game, there was a thing called like Agnes Philosophy that Square Enix showed off like back in 2013, like as a tech demo. That it was like, we wonder if this is going to be the next Final Fantasy. They showed this off. There's still rumors, and I've even had some people let me know that the Final Fantasy 16 trailer actually was pulled, and it's going to be shown off sometime in the next, I don't know, a couple of weeks. I don't think Square Enix they might be doing their own conference. I don't know. But essentially, like, this is essentially a developed for PS5. I don't think it's a Final Fantasy 16 or related to that. I think it's a new IP that they're going to see if it works. But it did give me some Agnes Philosophy vibes with some of the world settings. But overall, like, I still want to see that what they created with that tech demo somewhat come to life. And that's crazy that tech demo was still like it's 7 years old and still looks incredible. And if they showed off that tech demo again here on PS5, I'd be like, yeah. And now with ray tracing, like, oh yeah.
Yeah. So, and Project Athia, for people that, because there were 26 games, this is the one where we see a girl walking through kind of a torn down older city. She's got white sneakers on. That's the thing that stood out to me. You see like this crazy wolf creature that does not look like a biological creature. It's definitely made up of a bunch of stuff with like this burning embers inside of its stomach. We see like this other dragon also. So we don't exactly know like what kind of game it is. It looks like it's probably going to be some third person action game. Hey, turns out Sony makes third person action games, and they have those made for their system. But it also looked very much like just a few third person action games where the world has been destroyed, oddly enough. And we just add another one to that.
Don't look behind you.
So it looks pretty interesting. I think my problem is when I see little snippets of games that are like, they're supposed to give you like the theming of them. I get really excited, and I probably get way too overexcited over what we have seen. That's on me. I get excited about things, especially when there's like
the thing is, you got to give yourself some break. Like, this is just a big ball of nothing.
But there's a dragon in it, Brian.
The dragon,
so I have to get excited.
I love it.
And its chest is on fire.
That's what was like. I was like, all right, is it final? Show me final, because I know what final is. Final Fantasy, and it's like, no, Project whatever. Oh, Mist Dragon or Fire Smoke Smoldering Dragon. I can't tell if it's Mr. Flame. Like, but I was like, yeah, like it's an effing dragon. Like, let's go. I was like, is this Tomb Raider with dragons? I don't care. There's a dragon in it.
Yeah, if it's Tomb Raider with dragons, then that might be cool. All right, so not a lot. I mean, the game looks gorgeous. Like, if you look at it, and the skybox, everything in the background looks great. And I'm sure they're going to say, hey, if you can see that mountain, you can walk to the mountain. I think that's probably going to be something that some developer says in the future sometime. But that game looks really cool. Yeah, really excited to see more of that. It says PlayStation 5 development footage subject to change. So, I mean, that's what most of these things are going to be on, because it's going to be a while out. All right, so moving on to Stray. Stray. Okay, so Stray, like, first we're like in this old city. At first, there's like this graffiti that says no more humans or something like that. And there's a robot walking around. So first you're like, okay, so I don't know if this is like, are the robots like serving humanity, or have the robots taken over humanity? Do they kill off humanity? Did humanity upload their consciousness into these robots? We don't know exactly what happened, but there's a cat with a backpack. So it doesn't matter if you get to play as a cat with a backpack, right? I mean, I'm on board with Backpack Cat. I don't know who would not be on board with Backpack Cat. Am I alone on this?
I don't really care.
I'm gonna skip this one.
It's a game that people who like cats would enjoy, but I
am alone.
You are alone. It's like,
you monsters.
Like, wow, he is going really into detail in this game that I could give zero.
But did they really show?
What are they gonna do? Is it even a game?
Yeah, I mean, you're in or out, because it's just something like,
that's how Steven goes.
I'm ready to learn more.
It's attached.
It could be absolutely nothing. Like, it could be absolutely nothing related to anything that we've seen. Maybe the world building. Maybe that's it.
It's just Death Stranding, but you're a cat.
You're a cat.
What's the point?
That's what Death Stranding missed.
What do you mean, what's the point? I mean, the point is it's a video game,
you
and you can be a cat with a backpack. I mean, that's the point of video games, is being able to put you somewhere else. So
I don't want to be a cat with a backpack. I have allergies.
Well, this is a way you can play allergy free.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen.
Virtual cats shed no dander.
It'll be interesting.
No, they do.
I don't know when
I
it's
can
coming
tell.
out. Is that supposed to be a launch title? I didn't read anything on it.
2021. No,
So
I don't.
another game
I don't
that's
know
not
if
coming out at launch. So what do we have so far at launch? Spider-Man.
So let me tell you about
Ratchet
the
and
next title, Devon, in our
Clank.
list that is actually coming out at the launch. We think it's coming out at the launch. All right, so let's talk about Godfall. First thing I think we can all agree on about
Yes.
Godfall is why on earth did they choose that music to go
Oh,
along with
yeah.
that trailer?
Oh no! Don't even. Why do they choose that? This is Gearbox. This is getting
Yeah,
your
like,
stream claim box. Thank
I
you.
was
this
like,
is-
Never
Gearbox
stream a
had to have like
reaction.
chosen that for them because that was just really Gearbox and really cringeworthy music.
Never stream a reaction to a Gearbox anything game because you're gonna get claimed off the music alone. They license their music. It's almost kind of their bread and butter right now. Like if they came out and were like, we're gonna do a Borderlands 4 reveal thing, I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna watch that from the privacy of offline. I'm just like, I'm just going to enjoy that because there's no point in reacting to it. It's better just to film it, cut out the audio, try to edit the video any which way. So like if you're going to post and talk about it, but at the end of the day, it's a freaking looter slasher. I think everybody here in this square likes our looter games. If anything else, like they sold this on me, like when they announced it. Like I was like, this looks great. We saw some combat. Let me know when I can go hands on with it. Oh, and it's also coming to PC. All right.
Yeah.
That's why I'll be playing
I think the interesting thing about Godfall is so we had seen combat previously that leaked from a PlayStation 4 development build that they were building a while ago, and it did show off a lot of combat. There was some new combat shown off in today's trailer, but there wasn't a ton of new stuff. We did get to see a shield, we did get to see new enemies, but I still don't know exactly what type of game it is. Like, are we going to the level that this is a Souls game where this is timing based and parry based and rolling based? Because there is some of that, but it also looked like it might just be like a little bit higher than just a button masher. It didn't look like that, but I think I still have a lot of questions about it. Like, I'll go and we'll make a video and dissect it, but I mean, it really frustrated me. Like, you guys could have had a really epic score and added on to this like they did the first trailer, but instead they just had the music that didn't fit with it at all, and it just kind of like killed the tone of the game for me. I mean, as weird as that sounds, it like killed the excitement of watching the new trailer, because I am excited about Godfall. I am excited about to see if it's a looter. The PlayStation Twitter account tweeted out that it is an action that it's an action game. It didn't even say that it was a looter. It didn't say that it was a Souls game. It just said that it was an action game. We did get to see some of the multiplayer in it because there was other characters there, but that was only for like a split second. So we still don't know exactly what that is in the game yet either.
Well, and they talked about unlocking the armor instead of, looting the armor, right? Like you unlock it, okay. Right. That's different. It's like, is it like you're saying, the thing's changing? I don't know.
I think it's changing because it's going to be very Warframe-esque. Like, you're not going to be piecing together pieces of armor. If you're going to unlock the Silvermane set, you get the entire set. Then you're going to upgrade the weapons because they've been putting out teases of the weapons. They did a little Twitter trailer online talking about the Sunblade that you get. So it's not going to be Anthem, like where you just mix and match your stuff together. It's not going to be that. It's going to be more Warframe. So I don't know. So Zoelia in the chat says it looked PSO style to me. I mean, it's very possible. I haven't played PSO. Brian, you've probably played a ton of PSO, so you probably can speak to that. But
it's well, it depends. Like, so for PSO, like PSO's third person action, combat with varying roles and different types of weapons. So that could give you that vibe in that way. I like the visual setting. So PSO is very future fantasy. This is very kind of medieval, almost in a way. I would say there's I feel a little Viking, or there's a little bit like the art style in and of itself has that like very like grand fantasy.
Very epic fantasy.
Yeah, epic fantasy nobility to it, and its design. I would say though, like if it ends up being something where it's a lobby based, so if it's got drop in and drop out multiplayer, I think it's awesome. If it's got like a lobby and you have kind of a shared world, or varying kind of like you go on this mission and this is like yours and your friends can join you, or you can open it up, I think that's gonna be great. So we obviously still don't know enough, and which we need to know more about the game prior to this fall. Like, I think they need to have a very clear vision of what it is. Otherwise, our imagination could go and our expectation could be set incorrectly, and thus it could maybe not live up to it. So if it isn't going to be this grand epic, they need to start setting some context now and explaining how it's going to work and what it's going to play as. And they have this summer to do that. Otherwise, if we're still going into the fall kind of curious, it definitely would be a wait and see rather than a pre-order.
I mean, it didn't look like there was enough enemies on the screen for 3 players anyways. I mean, there was maybe 4 or 5 enemies tops at one time on the screen. And if it's 3-player co-op, I mean, I don't know. Maybe they're stronger and harder to fight, but...
Yeah, and like I said, it depends on what kind of enemies are they. Are they just like, mowing down drags, or are they actually going to be tough to fight? And, you have to learn pattern recognition and stuff. So, hey, I mean, it could be the Warframe of the PlayStation 4 era. We all know like how that game started out on PS4 at launch and where that game has ended up and the massive player base that is built in, those multiple years. So games can turn around. All right, let's talk about Returnal. This is Michael's favorite Tom Cruise movie.
I don't know if you need to talk about this one.
That's what it all reminded. Like, as soon as it brought the name out, Returnal, and it was yellow like urine, I was like, that's like urinal. I was like, that's a horrible name for this game.
That's a horrible style choice.
That's horrible decisions were made.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Who chose this name and then made it yellow? It's like, come on, that's just saying urinal. Come on, I mean, that's what it said to me. That's all I remembered about that whole trailer was just the ending where I was like, what the crap, urinal? And so, yeah.
Huh. Now that you say that, like, that makes sense, because I was like, yeah, Returnal's a dumb name anyway, but now, like, I make that connection and I'll never be able to say it.
You can't unthink of urinal
Never to be unseen. Never to be unseen.
You're welcome.
So you remember that Tom Cruise movie, Live, Die, Repeat? They also changed the name of that movie because it was confusing. So maybe they'll change the name of Returnal, because it sounds a little bit like urinal. All right, so we have a game where you are a pilot, you crash land on a planet, and it is, you go in, you die, you learn a little bit more, you come back, and you start over. This game looked really interesting to me.
Except different. That's every game that we've ever played. You go in, you die, you learn to dodge the things, you go in again. Like we've done this one before.
But that's like part of the story. All we ever do. It's not just like us dying and going back in. This is like dying in there, you're supposed to learn from it. But I mean, it's just like that, the game that was shown off last year for Xbox, that 12-minute one that already came out, where you have 12 minutes to accomplish stuff and then you die and start over. And it's like, what can you do in those 12 minutes? And you keep progressing or whatever. The gameplay did look good, once they finally actually kind of showed gameplay. But I mean, if you go off what the internet says, if it doesn't have UI, it's not gameplay. So, I'm not salty about it.
Because you can't turn those things off.
No, but you can in Outsiders, which is really awesome. But no, I mean, it definitely looked a lot more interesting to me once they actually showed her like firing and trying to kill the enemies and different things. It's like, oh, okay, that looks a lot more interesting to me than the beginning of the trailer where it was all the cinematic type stuff.
Yeah, I like story in games, so I'm excited for this one. I mean, it looks interesting to me. I guess it depends on how much time they expect me to put into it. I mean, is this like a 40-hour game? Is it like a 10-hour experience that we can just go through? And
what would you want? Would you want a 10-hour experience? Do you want a 40-hour game? Like, what?
I enjoy stories that are told concisely and don't meander and have a purpose. So if this is a 10-hour game, like, this looks like it'd be a fun 10-hour experience. If this is like a 40-hour game, I don't know. I mean, how many times can you live, die, and repeat? But I'm interested. I am excited to see what it's all about and see if Tom Cruise makes a cameo appearance in this game with a helicopter.
It costs too much.
Sword, so.
Just so you know, that's actually a really good movie. All right,
it is. So, I enjoyed it quite a bit.
It.
I like that movie.
I watch it every 3 days.
Really?
At least I think I do. I can't remember. Yeah, I don't remember.
All right, Sackboy: A Big Adventure. So Sackman is back. It's not Sackman. Sackman's a different supervillain.
That's a different thing.
You don't ever want to go up against Sackman.
I think Gandalf fought him in the Goblins' tunnels down in the Hobbit.
No, you're thinking Balchinian from Men in Black 2. That's who you're thinking about. Super Big Planet. Sorry, I have to refocus here. Come on, Mike, bring it in.
Sorry, I apologize.
Sackboy: A Big Adventure. This looks like we got the Sackboy from Super Big Planet. It's not Super Big
Little
Planet.
Big Planet.
What's it called, Devon? Little Big Planet. Thank you. Platformer, multiplayer. I don't know why this game is not a launch title. This seems like it should be a launch title for a PlayStation 5. It's weird that
is it not a launch title?
No, I think it's
I figured it was
to be announced.
I didn't see a date on it, but that's my whole thing. I didn't see a date, so. But I was kind of just like, oh, it's. I mean, it just looks like it's on PlayStation 4. I don't know. I mean, it wasn't like, hey, this is next gen. I guess that's my problem, right? We're going into these things. We're trying to be like, show us what next gen it really is. And some of the games did. They showed us some cool stuff. But then you also have smaller AA or indie games that they're cool games. But what are they? I mean, if you're trying to show me this as your PlayStation 5 game, I don't know. I mean, it's just frustrating. Like, I just didn't really see anything in that little glimpse that said next gen, 9.2 to 10.2 variable frequency teraflops.
Stop saying numbers to me. but you're right.
$700.
I mean, if you go back and look through, I mean, there's a lot of pretty looking textures, but like you said, this is not something that would be impossible on a PlayStation 4.
Yeah.
So we don't know exactly what it is, and we haven't had. There was not a little big. Was there a Little Big Planet on PlayStation 4?
Yeah.
Has there been a Little Big Planet?
Yeah, they had. I think they had two of them, and they were produced. One was produced by Media Molecule, like early on, and then they had another one that made another game after that. While Media Molecule was working on Dreams.
Yeah, and they're still working on Dreams.
And I don't know who's making this one, because it's not a PlayStation 5 game.
So that's Sackboy. I mean, does anyone have anything exciting to say about Sackboy? I mean, I never got into Little Big Planet, so it's not something that
it was cool on the PlayStation 3.
Original. I thought it was nice.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. But
it was a little floaty, and so
yeah, it was super floaty.
I would say versus Super Mario Maker 2, like Mario Maker 2, hands down. Like, I think that's a better platformer. But no, it's interesting what you could do and the freedom that they gave you. I don't think I ever finished it. I think I just kind of played around building levels and doing different things, and that was that.
Yep. So that's Sackboy: A Big Adventure. This will be one of those games that if you have kids, they will love this, and there's a lot of multiplayer in it. So, all right, then we got. I mean, man, we have a lot of games that we still want to cover. We'll go through a couple of these quick. Ghostwire Tokyo. So that was the gameplay reveal. That was a weird horror game set in Japan. I'm not too big on Japanese horror, so this game is not of any interest to me. I don't know if any of us are horror fans here on the show currently.
Steven wants me to play horror games on stream.
I think, Devon, it would be hilarious if you did more horror games streaming, because
just to see the reactions.
Well, we already know, like, Devon cannot handle even knowing that there's an alien on that station somewhere with him. It just freaks him out. So it'd be really funny to watch him.
There's an alien somewhere.
Exactly. Like, cool for people that are into horror games. Like, I'm excited that you have more games that you can get to play and you get to enjoy. This one's coming out in 2021. This will be a pass for me. So, all right. Then Hitman 3. Hitman 3 is a huge beloved series that people love. Hitman 2 was super successful, very popular. And now we're getting the last chapter in that trilogy of that Hitman trilogy. They didn't say it was the last one ever. There's probably going to be a lot more Hitman games, I'm guessing. Probably some mobile, some, because I know there's a lot of iOS. There is a iOS Hitman game. But yeah, so Hitman 3 is going to be coming January 2021. So this is actually pretty close to the launch window. They'll probably say this was a launch window game, not like a launch title game, but it was in their launch window.
Within the launch window, like 4 months.
Yeah, Rusted says, did I hear that right? Devon should do more horror game screamings? Yes. He should do more of those. So yeah, Hitman. Like, Brian, are you a Hitman fan?
Nope. I'm not against it. I've never. No,
it's not really my thing, right? I mean,
it's never been my thing. And it's like people talk about it. They're excited. I've seen some gameplay. I'm like, yeah, just not my thing. Like, that's cool, and y'all enjoy. Not gonna sit here and be like, you shouldn't play this game. Like, no, it sold well. It's got a long history, a great fan base. Like, cool. yeah, and maybe if I ever like, I've gotten to the point in my life where it's like these are the games that I really enjoy. Occasionally, like through like services like Game Pass, I'll maybe try it, but yeah, I don't really like this is not my thing. Long way of saying,
And it's okay if you don't like a game.
Mhm.
No, the world will continue to spin if we do not like a game someone else likes. So talking about games that people like, Demon Souls Remake. This is the game that kicked off all these games that people like end up throwing controllers through walls. They end up in divorce. Kids, divorce.
The forest.
Divorce. That's a weird way to say the word divorce. Demon Souls Remake. A lot of people are really excited about this. This has been rumored for a really long time. It's going to be a remake. It's being built from the ground up. Hopefully it can capture that exact feel, because for a game like this, people are going to be really upset if it does not feel like Demon Souls, because I mean, the precision of the Souls game, it's like even if it's off, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be really mad about it. But I mean, I've only started playing Dark Souls 3, so I'd have no nostalgia for Demon Souls. So hey, maybe I'll pick this up. I don't know. Maybe I'll never play another Demon Souls game or another Souls game after I beat Dark Souls 3, because of how crushing it is and demoralizing it is to lose all the souls early in the morning. So I might not do that at all. But there are a lot of people that are really excited about this. So this is pretty cool. I don't know, Devon, did they say if this was going to be exclusive to PlayStation 5?
No, it's not. But if it is, just have a timed exclusive, just like that Tokyo game 2 games ago that we talked about. That's a timed exclusive.
So it'll be like a 2-year exclusive deal that Sony has this game for like 2 years?
I don't know. They'll pull another Bungie and have us pay the same price and not get content. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see when it actually comes out. They didn't give a date, so I'm not sure.
Cool. And then let's see Deathloop. Which one was Deathloop?
That was the one where he's
That's
in
the one where you crash on the
Live, Die,
planet
Repeat, right.
and you live, die, repeat. We covered this one already.
No,
I'm
that's
sure of it.
that's
Deathloop
the
is
second game. He
I'm
does
sure
the same
of it.
thing as that other game, but it was all it was the one
This
from
is the
Arcane
Assassin's
Studios,
one.
right? From Bethesda and Arcane, and he's trying to get through there, and everybody else on the island is trying to kill him, and they really enjoy murdering him, as they said so in the trailer, and yeah. It was like,
was there anyone that like we play a lot of games where you shoot people and they respawn and you fight them again. This one, to me, and I don't know, maybe it was just the way that it came off, but I was like, wow, I don't know if I want to play this game, because it looks like you just shoot a lot of people. I mean, they didn't even look like real people. They're very stylized. It almost looked like they were clones or some weird
looked like they were
bodies.
robots or something.
Yeah, but I don't know. It did not. I guess the shooting mechanics didn't look interesting to me. Just when I saw it, I was like, oh, here's another game where we shoot people. And maybe I'm just kind of over that and I'm looking for something different. And then maybe that's why like the story games are a little bit, I mean, this game does have a story, and like the production quality of the trailer was amazing. Like it sounded good. The voice acting was great. The music was great, but it was just another, let's go shoot something again. And that just did not get me excited. I don't know. Maybe that was just me. Maybe it just caught me at the wrong time. But yeah, I just was not excited to play Deathloop.
Yeah, I agree. I wasn't either.
Like all of it. Like I mean, I feel like my answer is a little bit on a Deathloop of we just need to see more.
Yeah.
Take a stand, Brian. All right.
Yeah, we just need to like make a hard call right now.
Video.
Well,
make a call.
I guess
choose a
I'll be
side.
playing Destiny on PS5. It's like
Yeah.
okay, well,
It'll
like,
be 60
that's
frames per
great.
second.
Exactly. I'm happy, and they got the cross generational coming, and then next year after that they're shooting for that true crossplay.
You'll be
Like,
playing Destiny 2 on the PlayStation 6.
2 years, 3 years to get crossplay?
It doesn't. Speaking of something that we're all probably going to play,
No.
Horizon Zero Dawn Forbidden West.
We don't know when that's
This
coming
was the
out.
game. This was the trailer. We don't know when it's coming out. It doesn't matter when it's coming out. We'll wait for it. This was the game of this showcase that I was like, yep, that's why I'm buying a PlayStation 5, to have that experience. Even if I only play that game, I think my PlayStation 5 will be worth it because it looked amazing. Like Horizon Zero Dawn, the first one is already an amazing game. I haven't played it yet, and hopefully it's going to be coming to play to the PC,
coming to PC.
sometime next week.
This
I
summer,
hope.
something like that.
I wish it was next week. I was hoping for an announcement on that, but apparently it wasn't going to happen. But the game looks gorgeous. We saw the big robotic giant snapping turtle. Spoiler alert. Then we saw the giant, elephant. Like Samwise Gamgee and Frodo were sitting on the edge of the riverbank, and they see, the elephants coming through, and you're like, "Yep, that's the game I'm going to play." Man, the game looks so good. So
well,
good.
I mean, the trailer looked good. We'll see if the game actually looks like the trailer. We'll see.
We got to play it.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me that's so they started off strong with Spider-Man, Ratchet and Clank. In the middle was just kind of like, here's a whole bunch of games, kind of meh, and then that for me plus the console reveal was what really saved the show for me. Because without it, it would have just been like, okay, they started off strong and then just went for the rest, type of thing. I don't know. But.
So real quick, we'll burn through these last couple really quick because I want to talk about, expand on what Devon's talking about. So they showed off Horizon Zero Dawn, which is going to be awesome. Resident Evil Village, if you're into Resident Evil, you're excited about that. If you're not into it, I mean, the game looks really good, but it's a horror game and it's a Resident Evil game, so there's that. Little Devil Inside, this is an indie game that has been in development for a really long time. It was kickstarted. I think the art style looks amazing. I love it. That's my jam. I'm all in for it. Okay. Destruction All-Stars. This was the weirdest showing of a Destruction Derby or people just running around a Destruction Derby. I have no idea what this game is. It didn't make any sense to me. And there was a lot of people looking at the camera. This feels like this game was made for Twitch and people to play on Twitch, but I had zero interest in playing this game. It looked really weird. Kenya Bridge of Spirits. This game was made by a development team of two brothers. This game looks super cool. Super excited to give this a go. It had Studio Ghibli vibes to it.
I don't think it's just the two of them at the studio. They're part of the studio.
Oh, I thought there was just a two-man development team.
No, I don't think so. To me, it was like they're speaking for the studio, but they're from a small team,
gotcha.
And their brothers they lead the studio, but I don't think it's just them.
Okay, but that makes more sense because two brothers working on a game like that for that long, no way one of them doesn't die. Yeah. Then we had Jet, The Far Shore. This is a game where you're doing a lot of exploring. Bug Snack, which was the weirdest thing. You eat strawberries, you turn into strawberries.
Those people were on drugs when they made that game.
My kids were fascinated by that. So just it was like,
I was like, kids will love this game, but coming up with this idea. And
you are what you eat. And then the thing at the very end actually scared my 3-year-old. And I'm like, that's just a weird, I ate a strawberry. Now my arm's a strawberry. And there's monsters.
Yeah, it's like my hands are wieners.
Yeah, I dropped the microphone with my wiener hands. It's like, it's a bad choice of wording, maybe. I don't know.
So then there's Bug Snack. That was weird. Solar Ash, which was from the developer of Hyper Light Drifter, which is a super awesome mini game that people should go play. Astro's Playroom. I have learned from the chat that this is going to be bundled with the PlayStation 5.
That to me was this has to be a bundled game.
Yeah, so Astrobot was a VR title for the PlayStation 4, which was super popular, and it was a really good game. This is going to be like a playground of just things for the game, so kind of interesting. That's going to be added in. Then Oddworld. There's an Oddworld showed off. If you don't remember Oddworld from the PlayStation 1 days, I think there was one that came out recently also, but this looked like a very Lemmings-esque game. There was a bunch of these little guys following you around, and you can jump them through a bunch of fire or pits or traps and they all die or whatever. So there's more of that. So there's a lot of games. There's a lot more in there that we probably skipped. I'm sure there's one that someone's like, you forgot to talk about this game. Why aren't you talking about this game? There's a lot of games to talk about, so I apologize for that. But there's a lot of cool stuff. So speaking overall, we got Devon's thoughts. Overall, Brian, I would like your thoughts on the Sony State of Play today.
So I got everything I wanted except for a price. On that point, I was really hoping that we'd finally get some form of a number, but all this then confirms is that all this is fluid. And what this tells me, whether I'm right or wrong, is that Sony's statement, especially at 2013, is that they had two. This just makes me say, yeah, they totally had two presentations.
Yeah,
one where they pulled the camera, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, yeah, the price was always $400. No.
Yeah,
the price was $500. You just waited so that way you could come in. For that, and essentially that really won them the generation, being the most powerful, cheapest console. So we'll see if Xbox has that ability to repeat it. I thought the presentation, when you look at it and you look at Sony's presentations, especially at E3, over the last years before they just kind of finally pulled out completely. This was on point. This was them learning from Nintendo. This was like every moment was filled with a curated, edited kind of approach, and you can kind of hear it with the music whenever they would finish the thought, and then you hear like that beat, and they were right into something else. There was no downtime. There was no awkwardness about it. I thought it was produced well. I do wonder why are they showing off like the PS5 and gameplay footage in 1080 at 30 frames a second. It's not like visually going to do the trick, but maybe that was a limitation of, I don't know. But for me though, like the hardest thing, like I'm glad we get to see the system. I'm loving all the memes about it, but personally, like it does remind me a lot more of the 360 with that like that inhale concave kind of design. I like the controller a lot more. At least we got that. If we didn't get that, at least I would have been really like, just show me the system for the love. And then finally, the thing I like even more than anything that they showed was that there's a digital only edition right at launch. I don't need another thing that plays discs. Nope. I don't use discs. My car uses discs. That's where we use discs. And it's like, I'm going to download those games. I want them digitally. If PS5 supports my virtual library, I'll be very happy. If they do not, I won't be purchasing PS5 games except for like a handful of only on PlayStation 5 things, and it's just going to be my dust gathering machine. It really just depends on how they manage my account into the next generation.
I think that digital only it's a great idea, but it's also an easy way for them to cut the cost, and then on all their commercials they can say starting at like $3.99 or $4.49, which is great, and so that way they can still have that lower price. And I mean, Xbox, they've all done it this generation anyways, both in their marketing, like starting at this price. And so I think it's a great idea, and hopefully Microsoft follows suit, because I don't need a disc drive. I have an Xbox One X, but that's what I play my ultra high def movies on, and I have like 10 of them because I don't really care, because everything else I watch digitally, right? And all my games are digital. I don't, the only time I have physical copies of the games, I give them to Mike because I ordered them on accident. And forgot to cancel them. And everything else is all digital since the last year of the 360. And so I'm more than happy to be able to buy a cheaper version without a disc drive, and on both systems for the Series X and the PlayStation 5.
Yeah. So Mike, give us your thoughts in chat. Give us your thoughts also, and we'll read off some of your comments on the show.
So I enjoyed the show. It wasn't a bad show. There are definitely games that I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna look into this one, and there were the ones that I'm like, no, I'll pass on those. The console looked fine. I like the kind of new futuristic styling kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, and it wasn't a terrible show. I don't have any negative things to say about it. It showed the pricing was definitely missing, and very obvious that it was missing, but the controllers looked ergonomic. They looked like they would do what they needed to do. So not a terrible show.
Does this convince you to buy one?
No.
There was nothing in this that convinced me to buy or to not buy. Like I've always I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna get it as long as it's not like $700. Like if it's like $700, like I'll wait. Like it'll come down. If the if it's $700 and the one without a disc is $600, well, I mean, I'm getting the one without a disc drive anyway. So that's where my price point kind of starts to waver. Like $600, I've been saving up for already like 6 months. I'm planning on getting the Series X as well. So it's like, yeah, that's where that all is existing. So, but there's nothing here that said, no, I'm not in, or yes, I'm totally in. Like I was already in. And so it was just like, this was just pure entertainment and excitement for me to see previews of some of the things that I hope to be playing later this year. Maybe.
The only game that really said I had to buy it was Horizon, and that's who knows when that's coming out. 2022. There's no date or anything.
That's a killer launch title. If they hit that at launch, like that's I think that's something that's like, oh, you're like, let's play Horizon this Christmas.
Yeah, but that's
and there was nothing debuted today that told me that I needed to add a PS5 to my entertainment center. So,
but it's the same. I would say the same kind of. My comment is echoed as about the Series X, because I can also play all those games already. Like I'm confirmed can play Halo Infinity on my Xbox One X.
Right.
So it's both of these consoles right now, as they sit today, or I can wait or I can opt in. And I honestly appreciate that. Not having this FOMO, not having this like, oh, I missed out on this great experience, in that regard. So I actually, as an adult, I really appreciate the fact that I don't have to say goodbye to everything I currently own just to play 1 or 2 games that I'm interested in.
Yeah. So Zoila from Zoila. I'm probably say that again, Brian.
Zoila
in chat.
And if I'm butchering it, then I've been butchering it for years.
We'll all butcher. Says, I'm buying for Horizon. I'll be getting disk drive 1 because I have a decent amount of PS4 discs. So that's a good point. If you purchased, physical games in the past and they are backwards compatible, so that's a good reason to carry them forward, especially if there's no way to prove that you purchased this and get that license digitally. So
yeah,
good point. Something that we did not think about. I don't own a PlayStation 4, so I don't have a backlog, so I'll be getting the digital version. So looking back on the conference, I thought it was really interesting because like Devon said, Microsoft, they did their third-party thing in the beginning. They did it last month. I think if Microsoft were to have done it differently and put all those titles in with all their first-party titles, it would probably feel bloated and a little disjointed. I think some of this kind of felt disjointed. I don't know if I much rather would have preferred if Sony just said, "Hey, this is our first-party stuff. Here it is. Get it," and it's only a 30-minute show that really wows you and says, "Oh wow, this is crazy." But also I think games like Little Devil Inside, things like Bugsnack and Solar Ash, they wouldn't have had that.
Those would get completely ignored.
Right. They would have gotten ignored.
Yeah. And that's where it's like one of the strengths of being on the stage, one of the strengths of being included in this is the fact that you're going to have way more eyeballs on this. You're going to get eyeballs on, let's say Sony tomorrow said, here's our third party, whatever. You're going to get eyeballs on that because Sony's kind of initiating that conversation, but you wouldn't get as many as if they're saying PS5 revealed. And so being on that reveal, I hear you. It did feel like somebody was saying it might be 2 hours. I go, that's too long. You want to be because there's only so much information the mind can absorb. In that case. So there's that's why I felt like the things I wanted more information on, we didn't get more, and so it's gonna be okay, wait.
Right, because if you think back on the Xbox broadcast that they had last month, if you were to stop and think what games they showed off, how many of them would you be able to remember? I remember the weird alien penis thing because of the alien penis. That's the only reason why we remember that.
Always be remembering them penises.
Yeah, so there's that, but a lot of them, it's hard to remember all of them that came out, and it has been a month, and we have very short term, we have short attention spans. But I think something like this, where I will remember Little Devil Inside because of the game, but I never would have found that game alone on a Kickstarter. So it's weird. I hope that Microsoft comes and they, really have something to show, because this was a really good showing from Sony. I really enjoyed the stuff that we saw. I think there's a lot of cool games coming out, like Horizon. That game, hey, here's another game that's going to be game of the year. So Zwelia from the chat says Spider-Man trailer has 2.4 million views, and I think there were 7 million people tuning in to the broadcast. So a lot of eyes on it. I think a lot of us wanted to see the box. They teased that thing so hard at the end. I cannot imagine them extending how long they did not show us the box. But yeah, it's for me, the form factor of the PlayStation, whatever. The PlayStation 3 was weird. The PlayStation 4 was weird. I guess the PlayStation 4
it's a huge console.
It is very tall. It's very long.
Yeah,
it's not the size of the unit, Devon.
They're saying it's 16 inches tall, right? So, and it's
how many?
16, right? And so, in volume, this console is going to be larger than the Series X, but it's also weaker. And so, I don't know that
SSD, Devon, I/O speed. Double the gigawatts.
That does create heat.
Know what a magnetron
SSDs
is?
Create heat for sure. A magnetron, magnaflux, couplant. We talking non-destructive testing? What's going on? No, I thought it was crazy. It's weird. People were like, "Can you lay it on the side?" Because it's the same thing they said for the Xbox. And yeah, you can, but it's You know, that's like.
Oh, so speaking of, I want to talk about the laying on the side thing. Like, it doesn't really lay on the side. You put it like in a little egg holder that sits on top of the thing. Like the thing that holds it up, that same
Yeah, the
platform.
stand.
Yeah, you just kind of turn it on the side. That's weird. But I'm gonna hide it underneath my stuff anyway where I play it. So I think we get really like hooked on what things look like when we just kind of hide them anyway. It is weird that it's two-tone and it's white. There were some people being like, oh, they're definitely gonna offer two different colors. Guarantee they'll offer two different colors. Like, I don't think they're gonna offer two different colors. This thing is gonna ship
Not at
black and
launch.
white. And maybe somewhere down the line they'll like, hey, do
I like the
really
blue accents. Just to jump in on that, like
The
I
lights.
like the little lights that blue. I think that looks really nice.
Yeah.
That's just me.
And I like the one that doesn't have the disk drive. I think it looks cool. But at the end of the day, like, I had a GameCube. That was a lunchbox. It had a handle on it. So like, whatever, right? I mean, do you remember? We all remember the first Xbox, right? We remember how big and stupid that thing was. That thing needed a
That was a
handle.
beast.
You could knock someone out with that thing.
I took that to many LAN parties.
Yeah. So I just think it's funny that we get so hooked, you know, tied up in how does it look, and yours looks dumb and mine looks dumb, and we all look dumb because we're all defending pieces of plastic. But I'm excited for this. This was the first show that has really gotten me excited about the new generation.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what Microsoft claps back with. It's got to be priced. They got to tell us how much that thing costs.
No, they're not going to go
Halo,
first on price.
No, I don't think they will. I think everyone's going to wait to the last second. No one's going to say anything
Can't
until
even
they're like, I don't
pre-order
know.
it because they
I
have
was
no
like,
prices
pay whatever
now.
you want for it, all right? Just
Yeah,
whatever you think.
$1.
So, I mean, it will be
I'll give
interesting
you
to see
$1.
what Microsoft does this month, because it is rumored, like, there's been all those rumors that the stuff they were going to show this month got moved to August, so they can wait for PlayStation to show their stuff. Because they did say every month they're going to do a little show and show off something. So whatever they show off here in June, I don't know. They said June was supposed to be different. July
Supposed to
is
be tied in with the IGN like summer of
yeah,
replacement for E3.
yeah,
you
and
know, it's
that's a real quality show there. But you know, like we're something special here. But I mean, it's
just go.
Come on, I mean, just yeah, okay. Anyways, but no,
Ambassador Devon, you're an ambassador. Just remember,
I am an ambassador,
but you got to be on point.
You're a peacemaker. You're a bridge builder.
I am a bridge builder. If you need me to help you fix something,
is what he
I
is.
can certainly help you fix something. But no, I mean, it's going to be interesting. They're going to wait, you know. July is where they're going to show off first party. They're also going to show off more third party. But it's really going to be, you know, kind of what we talked about earlier is, let's see that first party. You've got 15 studios now to see if you add any more to your first party. See what they're bringing, you know. I didn't see anything there that looked better than Hellblade 2. Or not Hellblade, yeah. And so.
There was no Knack 3. So, like, I'm excited for the game. So right now, we're going to interject. We're going to stop right here. We are going to jump into this interview that we had with Jay from Whitemoon Dreams. He's the CEO over there. He really wanted to tell us a lot of details, but he's like, I probably shouldn't tell you that. I don't think I can tell you that. Talking with Jay was super cool. A lot of times we talk with developers and there's like this air of secrecy. Like, I can't tell you because it's secret and only game developers know. But Jay was like super open, willing to talk about all this stuff, except for the stuff that he was like legally obligated that he could not talk about. So enjoy this interview with Jay from Whitemoon Dreams. It's about an hour long, and hope you come back. I'm very grateful that you agreed to come on because I mean, I've been following you guys when you first started with the whole War Machine Tactics thing. That first Kickstarter. Well, I guess it would have been E3 2011. When you guys showed off the first third-person gameplay.
The War Machine action RPG that we were building, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, man, this looks awesome.
That's one of my favorite pieces still. Actually, Scott, our co-founder, he was the one that kind of designed that game, right? And he was telling me like he still goes back and watches that trailer because that was an epic moment for us, right? Like it's an IP that we've been in love with for a long time, and and like actually just having Matt Wilson say, yeah, fucking just go to town, like, you know, like what a dream, and that's what we did, you know. So.
Well, so for us, our podcast, we originally started out as just kind of like a podcast based around BioWare's Anthem when they announced that in 2017. Devon and
Mm,
I have been playing games for a long time with each other, and we just talk
mhm,
about games all the time because we work together. And we're like,
mhm,
let's start recording ourselves. We'll talk about games, and then after when development happens and games get released and you're like, okay, I think it's time to pivot away and just kind of cover things in a broader spectrum, because
mhm,
ultimately it's like we just love the industry and talking to
mm,
people that work in the industry, because
yeah.
I think a lot of players just don't realize that actual people work on games, and it's not just like, oh, this game is here now, how did it get here, right?
Yeah, I think that's true for a lot of products, right? A lot of things, a lot of films and all that. Like there's just kind of you're kind of you get the box from
Yeah,
Amazon and you forget like somebody had to pack that, right? And somebody had to manufacture the thing inside of it, and somebody had to source the materials for it and everything. It's really easy. Like we're in such a consumer-based society, it's really, you're kind of abstracted from all the work that it takes. And why should you know about it,
right.
right?
Yeah.
But I like that you guys are doing this, especially when you talk about it like that, because we really do want people to know how these things are made, right? In fact, like one of our projects here is actually building a game development curriculum, so we can actually train people
Oh, cool.
in making games, but
Awesome.
not at the level that you kind of get on YouTube and all that, where it's kind of like, oh, here's a quick tutorial, but here's what
Right.
you really need to know if you want to get a job making games, you know.
Yeah, and that's awesome, because that's one thing that we always talk about. It's like, why don't we just make a game? And we're like, because we don't know how to make a game. And we could go to school for it, and you get into all the debt, and that's a question that
Yeah,
everyone always asks, right? How do I start making games? And
yeah,
to have a seasoned development team being like, this is what you need to know. I mean, that would be so
yeah.
helpful to like a ton of people.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to bring. Like, what happens if we kind of take that whole, like, you know, maybe you got a bachelor's degree before, maybe you didn't, or whatever. But look, like, there's some basic things you need to know, right? Like, if you want to be a programmer, you need to know how to do C++. You need to know how to write code. We don't want to teach you how to write code. There's plenty of stuff out there to write code, to teach you how to write code. But if you want to take that knowledge that you have and turn it into making games, then you get that base, and then you bring it here. Or if you want to be an artist or a game designer or something, then there's a lot more like ground level stuff that we can do. But the whole concept of making games, even for me, when I started making games professionally in 1995. And it's it's oh, this is year 25. But it's it's it was such a mystic process, right? I had a couple of years prior to that, before I got my first job in professionally making games, I was doing mods for games like Command and Conquer and Descent and stuff like that. And it um there's nobody teaching you this stuff. You had to kind of like go through like crazy text files and all this sort of thing. And even now it's still kind of like that.
Yeah.
So, we gotta open it up, because there are people out there that have really great ideas and the ability to execute, but they don't know where to start, you know?
Yeah. And I think it is interesting because like the big companies, like they're so secretive about everything. Like
Yeah.
you can't talk to the developers at all, even if you're like, hey, this is super cool. How'd you do this? They're like, nope, can't talk to you. Everything's under NDA. Like there's no peeks into anything that's happening. And it's like, well, I guess it is magic. I don't know. I don't know if robots are making the game or if it's just, AI made Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I don't know. So it's really
Like
cool.
I've been involved in most of the console research and development efforts before they launch. So um, year and a half to 2 years before a new PlayStation or Xbox launches, like we're usually working on it in some capacity, and and it's been that way for me the since since the early no sorry since the late 90s, right? Actually, no, probably before that, because I did that for N64. But
Ooh.
um, but you know, like at some point, some little bit, like the platform, the console manufacturer releases some information about what they're doing, right? Just like, oh, we have ultra fast something, or you know, we've got this special, like, look at this screenshot, right? For about like 1 hour, you get a bunch of people that are just posting bullshit, right? Like, oh, it's probably this and that and the other thing.
Yeah.
In about 2 or 3 hours, the internet has figured it out, right? And they are 95% right. You know, like they have figured it out. So the whole concept of secrecy for me, I understand secrecy for legal reasons and, you know,
Right.
like work with large IPs and all that sort of thing, but it's largely bullshit, you know, because especially when you're talking about technology, somebody has already figured it out, right? I love the you know, they had that Unreal 5 demo that they showed a couple of weeks ago, and Digital Foundry came out maybe 2 days later and was like, here's how it works. But the Unreal guys are like, oh, it's so secret. You know,
Yeah.
I love those guys. We work with them, but like, you know,
Yeah, and I think that's kind of trained us as consumers of the product to be like so mistrusting when new stuff comes out, right? Because you know we see the Unreal thing and we see, you know, the character go through the little crevasse and we're like, hey, that's a loading screen, and they're like, no, it's not a loading screen, we promise. And we're like, we're pretty sure it's a loading screen. And I think it's just funny that's how, I mean,
yeah, the consumer should be untrusting, right? Like I worked at EA, you know, I worked with teams that built that marketing material, and I worked specifically on a project that, you know, where we were working with early hardware, and we showcased something at E3 that was, you know, supposedly running on the early hardware, but it was actually not running on the early hardware. It was running on a computer. It was running on a
Right.
mobile PC that, you know, was just had like 5 GPUs in it, and we were hoping to God it would run, and then if it wasn't going to run, we had a video already recorded to just play as backup.
yeah,
Yeah.
as long as you don't show the mouse clicking play, then no one will know.
It's
that-
always funny at those E3s when if somebody gets behind the curtain, they're like lifted up. Oh, it's not. It's a, you know, dev kit, or it's a PC or whatever, and the internet flips out about it. It's like, what do you think a dev kit is? You know, it's like, come on.
It's true. Actually, I remember the Xbox 360 dev kits were actual. They were
The
a
Macs,
type of
right?
Apple machine. Yeah,
The Power Mac or whatever, Mac
Yeah.
Power, whatever it was.
tower. The tower. Yeah. I had like 2 of those under my desk, and you know, and the only thing special about it was that it had a special graphics card in it from ATI, you know, and the CPU worked. The CPU worked very similar to what the Xbox CPU was going to work like, you know. And then even still, when we showed like the Xbox 360 version of the game, it was still running on a PC.
And Jay, you had mentioned that you had been in the industry for 25 years, and you mentioned looking at the 64. So, like, when you first got your hands on the Trident controller, like, what were your initial thoughts? Because that thing was so different.
Well, first I held it like that, right? And
Right.
you're not supposed to hold it like that. You're supposed to hold it like this. So I'm like,
How do I get to the joystick?
how is this going to work? But then the thing about so I was totally confused, right? But this was so comfortable, right? And I wanted to do this. So I felt like I felt like that was going to be the way we went. For the projects that we were working on, we did assign things to the D-pad and all that up here, but this became the natural fit. So it continued to be odd to me through our development that you were basically not supposed to use half of the controller.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But you know, I think like I did about 4 years of development on it, and I stopped asking that question. It just worked, you know. And all controllers have that, right? Like there's like how much do you use the tilt function or the gyro really in the PlayStation controller, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always look back fondly on the N64 controller because it was so weird. Like just wrapping it up was kind of fun because it also had like a 10-foot long cord or something on that thing.
Yeah.
But it felt good in the hand. So
Yeah.
today, like I'm also curious, like how did you even get started in the industry? Like what was the driving force for you to be like, I have to be in this industry, I have to be in it for 25 years and longer? Like what made you, like how did you get to the point that you are now, I guess, in a very long, if you have a short story or a long story?
I don't know. Like, I mean, the short story is I've always been into making video games. Always, always. From my single digits, like yeah, I think I made my first game in fourth grade. Fourth
Oh,
grade.
wow.
Yeah, on an Apple II Plus or something like that. You know, and I was copying code out of a book, and I had to learn how to kind of debug the code myself. And I was so interested in it because my dad had bought me like a Odyssey 2 um, console because we couldn't afford an Atari 2600, even though it was like reportedly under $50. You know, he could still go to Kmart and get this thing on clearance. So I got that, but the idea that there was this whole experience happening here, and I could like control and interact with it like it was not my world. I was in somebody else's world. Like, it's so good. So I kept making games, designing games with my sisters and my neighbors, and we were constantly making stuff. And I submitted to something to Sega when I was in when I was in sixth or seventh grade, and they picked it up. They thought, this is interesting, we should make a game on it.
Oh,
And
wow.
I still have like the letters from Sega that were like, this is really good, but my parents were not into the idea. So they were like, we're not, like,
Oh,
and they
no.
needed parental consent to
Oh,
do it. So my
bummer.
parents weren't into it. And by the time that I convinced my parents that it was okay, Sega was transitioning from the Master System to the Genesis and had completely changed the way that they worked with third-party developers. And so I couldn't be some some eighth grade kid actually like making a video game. But from there, like my interest in it never went away, even though my parents really hoped I would do something else. And and by the time I was in college, I had done like mods for Command and Conquer and Descent. And while I was in college, I began working in game companies, and that kind of took over everything I was doing. I didn't want to stop, and it all still drives me today. I don't see it ever stopping. I work on the engineering side, I work on the art side, I work in business development, strategy, mergers and acquisitions, R&D, and I have a great team around me that, like we're doing a lot of really interesting things. So yeah, that's it's just passion. There's nothing else I want to do, and frankly, there's nothing else I could do if something happened and we couldn't sell video games anymore. I could barely flip a burger. I got fired from McDonald's.
Unless you can gamify it, right? I bet you I can flip more than burgers than you can in 1 hour. So,
Maybe.
so you have this long career, and then so I mean, you've been with Eagle Interactive, Paradox, Mumbo Jumbo Games, which is an awesome name for a game studio.
That's where I met Scott.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
What were you guys working on at Mumbo Jumbo?
So Scott had helped form that company before I even joined. That they had acquired the right to do a game based on the Myth franchise. If you remember, that was a game from Bungie from a long time ago. So
Okay.
we did Myth 3, The Wolf Age.
Really?
Yeah. There was also one company in there that I'm not sure if it's on my public dossier. It should be, but it's called Looking Glass Studios.
Oh, yep, Looking Glass.
Yeah. So there was a lot of that place was where we did a lot of really interesting, crazy stuff, and that's the company that really introduced me to the R&D side of games. That has kind of taken us. It's one of the reasons why War Machine Tactics got built.
Okay.
Because there was so much R&D background there that when we approached, by the time we got to the point where we were doing War Machine Tactics, I mean, Looking Glass was in 1996, and War Machine Tactics, I think we started working on it in 2013. and we were well positioned with Epic to actually use the very to use Unreal 4, which wasn't, which was still like a good year and a half to 2 years away from being functional. But Looking Glass was very seminal to my career. But yeah, so Scott I met at Mumbo Jumbo, and I I realized like that, like Scott comes from one of Scott's big points, like defining points in his career, was actually being the individual that built the world of Fallout, for Interplay back in the 90s, very early 90s. And like when you talk to the guy, you can see why Fallout is the way it is, right? So I was like, okay, I need to be attached to him forever.
and so far you have been.
Yeah. That's right.
Very, very cool. And then you also worked at Insomniac and did some time at EA. It seems like everybody we talk to has done some time at EA in one form or another.
They're the McDonald's of games, right? So everybody gotta work the fast food at some point.
Everyone's got to go through there, and then becoming the CEO of Whitemoon Dreams. Can you explain to our listeners what Whitemoon Dreams is? Because you're not just a video game developer, because you do a lot of things. You guys also publish games, and then like you said, you're into development and a bunch of other things. So how did it get started, and what is Whitemoon Dreams?
So Whitemoon was singularly focused around the idea of like bringing Scott's games to life. Right, like that's it. Scott was like, I have this idea, I have this idea, and this idea, and this idea, right? And so the idea is like, kind of, how do we get towards that? And it's hard, right? It's the entertainment field. Nobody's just gonna blithely say like, yeah, here's a bunch of money to do what you want, right? So you have to do a lot of paying your dues to actually get there. Nobody sees it. Nobody sees, like, companies like Insomniac had to just go through a lot of slog, right, to get to their Spyro the Dragon, to the Ratchet and Clank, Spider-Man, all these things. But it takes like 10 plus years. So shit, I lost track of the question.
So just kind of like what Whitemoon Dreams is, what you guys do, the games that you made, and
so that's kind of the core vision, right? Like, let's make those games. Now, what Whitemoon Dreams is, in order to make those games, there's a lot of other steps that we need to go through. And a lot of those steps have involved building relationships with interesting groups and powerful folks and all that, and taking also a lot of our inherent ability and knowledge and actually turning that into things that benefit the game industry. So what Whitemoon Dreams is at its core, we're a game company, right? And we're always trying to express Scott's game designs. There's a lot of other layers. We have a platform team. And we're building a general software as a service platform, which is right now actually being used to power education. We do an incredible amount of research and development for the game industry. So most things that you have put your hands on in the last maybe 8 years have had some involvement from us. So there's a lot of that, and then of course we've built
I guess, Jay, because that's something that I've never even considered, that there would be smaller studios that are doing other things instead of game design. So when you say you're doing that stuff, like what does that entail? Are you guys building systems, tools for engines?
Yeah, that's right. That's so sometimes we do things like that. Sometimes we might build entire systems for popular game engines you might know about. Sometimes we might take an initiative that a platform holder, whether it's Microsoft or Sony or Intel or something like that, they might be developing some technology that needs to be actually used by a game team and expressed in a certain way, or you need to find holes in it, or you need to help them flesh it out because they may hold the platform, but you hold what you want as a game developer, right? And and a lot of times we represent all game developers in that sense. This is like, as a game developer, I would want to dot 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 with this
Okay.
particular system. So how do we fill in that dot dot dot? And that involves an incredible amount of metrics, right? Like measuring how fast does the processor do this thing, and how many times can we do this other thing on that, while that process is running, or or even just like the simple idea of how many triangles can we put on the screen
All the triangles.
yeah, let's put them all on, right? uh,
Break it.
so
So even though on your guys' website it has the list of things that you've worked on, I mean, there's probably hundreds and
Yeah.
thousands of other things that you guys have had your hands in.
That's right. As a research and development shop, there's so much stuff that you just can't say. But what I can say is that we're still around. So
Right.
Yeah.
so something is powering us. So things like Starblood Arena and War Machine and Concrete Genie, like all these games that we have credits on, or have developed whole, they not haven't necessarily powered us in terms of revenue, which means that we're doing a lot of other things that actually make it possible, but we just can't talk about it.
Okay, gotcha. But when you like see all the stuff during E3, you're like, yep, we helped on that, we helped on that, we helped on that, going down the list, like, yeah, we helped on
Yeah.
all these things.
That is a lot of it, and actually that's sometimes what E3 is like we work on these things, we work with people that are remote, like we worked on a lot of stuff with Intel, and the group that we worked with was in Ireland, and we would see them twice a year, one at GDC and one at E3, and that's when they would show their stuff to the public, and they would be super excited about it, and they would take all the credit, and then they would have their party at night, and then we'd get all the drinks for free. And you know what? They paid their bill, they bought us drinks.
What more can you ask for?
Yeah.
I mean, you pay your bill on time, sure. You take all the credit you need.
Yeah, it's all yours. It's it's a great product, but we have other things that drive our ego. So
Well, that's really cool because that's something that I never even knew of. So I'm getting educated today on the game industry, because before it's like, you make games and that's it. But I guess there's a lot of other teams on the back end helping each other out. So
that's right. Yeah, very rarely are these things made alone.
And that's why there's like 12 minutes of credits after. I mean, it seems like before, a long time ago, video game credits were very short, and now they're getting about as long as a Marvel movie.
Yeah, it's true.
Is there a stinger at the end of this game now? Am I
Yeah.
going to wait for the stinger at the end to see what's coming next?
If I could actually put my name on, if I could actually have my name on all the games that I actually worked on, like actually had my hands in, those games credits list would be so much longer, because especially back in the day, there were some big seminal games that only put the people that worked on the game for more than 80% of their time at the company that the game was developed at. But if you spent 100% of your time at another company, and were contracted to work on the game, they didn't have to put you in.
Oh, so were you able to even put that on a resume that, hey, I worked on this, or was that like NDA, you can't say anything about this unless you worked on this?
Well, I can put it on an NDA'd resume. How about that?
Okay, yeah,
There you go.
so now, like, you're saying all this stuff that working on everything. Now I'm just like looking at the background, like, man, is that like a dev kit for some console that we don't even know about yet? But,
Oh, no, that's all. PlayStation 4 dev kit. Here's that's a PlayStation Pro dev kit. It's a little hard to see in there.
Yep.
Okay.
But yeah, there's definitely other hardware around here, but it's not actually visible to most people.
It's all in the R&D white room.
Anything that's sensitive is in special
places.
locked off areas. Yeah. And that's just across the board. It's not just like the usual suspects. Anybody who has any sort of new hardware, new VR hardware, or new, like, even if it's like a controller that like a controller manufacturer may be working on, like, all that stuff needs to be put away. You know.
There's the story that's been told about the I think it was a 360 dev kit that got stolen out of the Microsoft office because someone walked in and just like picked it up and took off. Like, maybe you should lock that up. I don't
Had
know.
nice handles on it too. You could
just roll this thing out. And
Yeah.
speaking of VR, Jay, like you guys have been doing a lot of work in the VR space. You're working a lot with Sony on their platform. And VR is something that I just recently gotten into. I got a Windows headset. Really enjoyed my time with it. Beat Saber is a ton of fun.
That was one of our products, actually. The Windows MR.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say that, but you know what? Let's figure out what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
we can always bleep it out. It's fine.
Yeah. I haven't tried Half-Life Alyx yet, but as a developer for a VR platform, like I know adoption is getting higher. What do you see as like the biggest hurdle for mass adoption of VR?
Putting on the headset. Yeah, that's just like we were. What's that?
Does it just need to get lighter and no cords for more people to do it, or?
It's that, but there's a big demographic that is actually interested to play, but does not want anything messing with their hair.
Okay.
And I get it, right? Like I totally understand. But you know, like a peripheral is hard, right? Especially a peripheral you have to wear. That is the biggest problem. It doesn't mean it's going to sink VR if that problem doesn't get solved. And I don't think even with like AR and all that, we're really going to solve that in a fashion that will take over consoles or something like that. You know, will replace the PlayStation wholesale, right? But like the things you mentioned, like being cableless, being lighter, those things all reduce the barrier to entry, and that's really what on the VR side we're really trying to achieve. We do a lot of live action VR stuff, where people wear, like we've released several games actually in China that are based on like you wear a backpack and you run around a room with a big gun and you're like shooting at other people or shooting at like things in the game and stuff like that. And the setup time for that, you actually have to work that into your business model of kind of, how long does it take to kit a person out to put all the tracking gear on them, and then put on the backpack that has a laptop in it and the headset and all that sort of thing. That stuff is all like you have to kind of remove all of those things. Now we're working, like our latest iteration of that involves no backpack, no external cameras. It's just a headset you put on, right? So we're getting very close to that holy grail of just put on the headset and grab a gun and go, right? But we need to cross that next barrier of how can that headset be smaller, right? How can it be potentially projecting something into your eyes or something like that? And we're not going to solve that problem, but we'll work with the people who do.
Right. And for VR, from my experience, everyone that has come over and tried it, like I think they will remember the first time they try VR, and then they have that moment of, okay, yeah, I can see where this is going in the future, because it's so immersive that it's like, yeah, we want more of that. And I hope eventually we're all, if we're someday medically inserting VRs or changing out our eyeballs, like
I can't wait, dude.
Yeah.
Like, stick that jack into the back of my head. I'm good.
We're going into the Matrix. We're going in all the way.
Let's do it, dude. 100%.
So Jay, Devon and I are actually really big War Machine fans. It's been a long time since we played, because tabletop gaming is really hard to especially now. It's not like you can come over and just play because of quarantine. But since 2004,
nice.
Steven actually painted this one for me.
It's looking good.
Yeah, since 2004, I've been into the game. When I heard about, the game that you guys were building, we saw the third-person action RPG. Like, and I'm like, all right, this is it. Like, this is like, I'm into this already. So can you tell us about the story? Like, how did that come to be? Like, did you guys like say, hey, we love this tabletop game, let's prototype this and show it to Privateer and see if they pick it up? Or did they come to you guys?
Well, no, actually, we were once again doing like some R&D for a game engine company, and they had a relationship with Privateer, and they had asked Privateer for the right to build like the Night Wretch and a couple of the little Crix beasties and like actually I think like the Ironclad and some of the Juggernaut, like a couple of the seminal OG War Machine
Warjacks of the time.
Warjacks, yeah. And so Matt had given them the right to do that, and they weren't going to make any profit off of it. They were just using it to kind of express the engine a little bit. But we were looking at that and we were like, just fucking cool. And we already knew what the IP was. Like we had a couple of players who've been playing since I think War Machine came out in
2003, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So we had a couple of players that have been playing that, and they introduced it to me. And of course, I love anything about big robots.
Yeah.
And that's just there's no world like the Iron Kingdoms,
Right.
So we were just like, like we can do this stuff better than they can. So we asked for the relationship. We had the meeting with Matt, and we said, hey, look, we really want to do something with this property. And so we decided to kind of take the bet and build the action RPG demo off of it and see if we could get publisher funding to actually, build a whole, 20-hour single player story campaign that, really told really spent time getting into the details of, the Signarian Koottarappallil conflict, and with the Protectorate and Crix as like heavy supporting characters, right? Yeah, it was. I mean, that was the dream. So Matt was 100% for it, right? He didn't have to do anything but kind of approve and all that. And he was super involved in the process. Actually, he's always like through everything that we did, he was really, really involved and just, opened up everything about Privateer to us, right? Like we want to ask questions about the lore, or, we wanted to submit designs or ideas or anything. And let me tell you, as an IP holder, also just super easy to work with, because we've worked with all kinds of IPs, the stuff from Disney, stuff from like Hasbro, but Matt was super cool and super flexible, because I think the way that he looks at the IP is like, if somebody's going to mess around with it, they're most likely going to try to add to its value.
Right.
So that was really cool.
So then going from third-person action game that we saw at E3 to tactics, like why and how did that decision get made?
So this was a conversation that Matt and I had, where when we started pitching War Machine, we were kind of coming out of the recession, from the 2008 recession, and we as a studio were still fairly young, and we're a little bit naive to how financiers and publishers and all thought. We kind of did really believe that they, like if a game was cool, they would pick it up and they would see like, oh, it's cool, it can be a boutique project, or it's going to make a ton of money, or both, but it doesn't really work that way. So we tried shopping it for quite some time, and we had one super close, like we had a very big publisher almost pick it up. We were so close to it. They asked us to add on a MOBA component, right? So it was it was going to have the story mode, plus be a competitor to League of Legends.
Oh, just a little mode then. It wouldn't nothing too like
yeah, just go ahead and tack that on. Just
yeah. If
Just
you
do
have time this weekend, just make it a
yeah,
MOBA
just
also.
throw that on there. Yeah. But by that point in time, we were starting to also learn what the publishers were looking for. And this is funny because I say publishers, not necessarily the market, but the publishers were looking for these certain things. And so we had already begun to adapt to like more multiplayer, to have a single player component, but also to have a heavy multiplayer component. So adapting it to the MOBA was not very difficult. In retrospect, I'm really glad that we did not do that project, because we've been inside of Riot's operation now and other MOBA folks, and it is not a pleasant experience, right? It's not about making games anymore. It's about running operations.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, so like if you take all of that, what we were pitching as an endeavor for the action RPG was a very expensive endeavor. Just for the single player aspect alone, it was around like 12 to $15 million. And while that may sound like a lot, it's not a lot for like a 1.5 to 2 year development, when it comes to game industry professionals, because game industry professionals are usually, like especially for veteran ones, are paid pretty well. So your cost of doing business is incredibly expensive, and your margins, like it's well, you don't make margin most of the time. Most of the time when we build games, we build them at cost and we each and then maybe it'll make some money on the back end. But for us, 100% of the time it has not. But it's okay. So but so like when we looked at, so I told Matt, like, look, dude, we're not getting any traction with this action RPG anymore, but we really want to make something. And the Kickstarter platform had just launched. We had so much work already done. We were just like, why don't we actually turn a lot of that into still make a game, but make a game that would be achievable within a much smaller budget.
Okay.
So we kind of got together with Matt, and we figured out, like, he would put his IP and his team kind of against the Kickstarter, and we would put our team and our expertise and all that against the Kickstarter. And then that's how the Kickstarter came to be. We basically scoped the project down to something that was more palatable for Kickstarter, something that still we felt would make sense for War Machine, and that's how War Machine Tactics came to be.
And it turns out the Kickstarter was a good idea because you guys funded in, I don't remember how quickly you funded, but you guys funded fast.
At 36 hours.
Yeah. So I was backer 147 just because I had bad internet at the time.
You would have been backer 47 if the internet was better, right?
I hope so.
We were on the oil field. It was out in the middle of nowhere.
I have to stand by a tree to get good signal. Hopefully that gives you like a boot. So like because like you said, Kickstarter was brand new, and like funding things on Kickstarter, like back then, it seemed really easy to fund things. And then you see that a lot of projects don't ever make it on Kickstarter. So like when you guys like did the work, went through the thing and actually funded and actually delivered your product, it's like, oh, this can work. And I think it works for a lot of smaller studios now, because Kickstarter, you see a lot of like 1 or 2 or 3 person development teams that are really successful on Kickstarter.
Right.
But go ahead.
I think that, like, so Double Fine really opened it up with kind of like, we're just going to put our game on here. We're going to ask for $1 million or $2 million or whatever, and like actually proved that there was a desire there. But I think that also there are two big points there, and I really need to address them, I think, because our audience was a victim of this, right? Like there's the point of games don't always come out the way you intend them to, right? And then the other they will become what you intend them to over time, is if you can stick with them long enough. But they don't usually start out. A lot of times they don't start out, unless you have a gigantic budget. They don't start out with the the way that you the way that you want them to. But then also there's so much garbage, right? And it's very difficult for a lot of people to completely deliver on what they say. And I think we were also guilty of like a little mix of both, right? You know, and that causes issues with a fan base that we love, right? So
I think
wore it down.
And I think it's interesting also because when you're developing on Kickstarter, there's the expectation that you better tell me what you're doing. You better update us all the time because we've already given you our money, right?
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of like, all right, what are you working on now? Are you working on the thing that I want you to be working on?
Yeah.
And like you said, I mean, because you guys would put out developer updates fairly frequently, and then there's a lot of comments on all of those on, you know, hey, I think this should be like this, or I think this should be like this. Plus, you guys also went into early access, which was something that not a lot of games were doing at the time. So then you get more feedback from there of, hey, how come this unit does not work exactly how this, you know, this card works?
Yeah.
Like, why aren't you doing this 100% of, you know, a complete translation from the game? So, I mean, that's got to be hard as a developer to be like, well, this is what we can do. We can't do it the way you want it to do, but we know that you love the game.
Yeah.
It's like, we're sorry, but I don't know. It's hard to make everyone happy.
It's true. It is hard to make everyone happy, and that's like for us, the fan base is so precious, right? Like they put things that, I mean, they do kind of what I caution people against doing, which is pre-ordering, right?
No.
I'm not a big fan of the whole pre-order concept, and we've launched plenty of games that have been pre-ordered, but like, you know, it's not usually our druthers to do that. But it is difficult. It's zero problem to respond to the fan base, right? It was always a pleasure for Matt and I to interact with them. It's you know, because those are the people that you're going to get the most honest reflection of things from. But they also oftentimes want things that are diametrically opposed, you know, just because everyone has their own take on it. So you just do the best you can. You don't necessarily take everybody's suggestions and kind of homogenize it into one thing, because then you end up with boring game. But you take your own gut instinct and you say, oh, this is really the way we should go. But when there's something that's loud enough, and this happened a lot, especially after we released the game, you know, especially when we had RNG problems, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we literally hired a guy who was in the community that was showing us so much stats on RNG and like how we should rebalance things and all that. We were just like, you know what, just come on.
Yeah.
We'll hire you.
Just come over here.
just do it. Right. But that's the best you can do is listen and empathize, and then make an informed decision from there, and then just kind of deal with everything else. Just deal with everything else as it goes. You know, I would have loved to make everyone happy, but I also knew that even like with the action RPG, we showed that trailer and we put it up on YouTube and all that, and we got a lot of love for it. That was great. We also did get a lot of hate for it, right? Because there was a lot of people that just wanted a translation of the tabletop game into a digital version, so they didn't have to cart all their figs around or whatever, you know. But that's what tabletop simulator is for,
right? I mean, those people are weird. I don't usually say that people are weird, but those people are weird. I mean, come on. I still want a third-person War Machine game, because, like you said, like the Iron Kingdoms is a great IP that you can do a lot in. I mean, yeah. Since we've had like the Witchers, the Assassin's Creeds, you know, all these huge games, it's like, yeah, just do this, right? Just make a MOBA. Just go make a MOBA. What I've actually had, like, playing War Machine, I actually had the chance to play against Matt Wilson on there, because we were able to meet up and play in War Machine Tactics. I was able to beat him because, you know, creators of things aren't always the best at the game, right?
True.
So that's actually one memory that I have of the game that it's like, you know, that's one of those core gaming memories that I had, that I got to play against a creator of an IP that I love. And you guys were able to help me do that. So I really appreciate that, the project
Our
that you
pleasure.
worked on.
Our
So
pleasure.
thank you for, you know, for kickstarting
Yeah.
that whole thing just so I can have that one experience.
It was for you. We knew it from the beginning.
That's
Just
what I've
for
been telling
Steven.
myself the whole time.
Don't inflate
So-
his head even more. Right? That's
Anyway, I mean, he wasn't that good at the game, but so knowing what you know now, like,
Yeah.
is Kickstarter ever in the cards again for Whitemoon Dreams?
Never.
Never again.
Never. It's maybe as a marketing support thing in the future if we want to, but maybe something like that, but never to fund a whole project or anything like that. It's because the problem is it's almost impossible to manage expectations. Even if you say, like, you know, on the game side, this is what it's going to be, this is what's going to be, here's a demo, play it, you know, here's first playable, let's go on early access and all that sort of thing. There's still a gap between what somebody imagines they're going to get and like, you know, from that video, and then what they actually get, because you can't take a video of the entire game, right? You haven't made it, right? But if somebody doesn't like the resulting story, there's that problem, right? If somebody doesn't like the way that Mission 18 controls, there's that problem, right? Like if somebody doesn't like a voice actor, and like and the depth to which someone hates something and will want to do damage to you as an individual or as a company or something like that, the exposure to that is too great. And we literally had people you know, like even before we released, giving people at our studio death threats. I remember somebody got a hold of my phone number and was calling me while I was on my way to work and giving me shit. And like, we were still in the middle of development, you know, because they did not want a turn-based tactics game, or they didn't want the story of Allison Jakes, right? Or something like that. And some of these things weren't necessarily our decisions, but we were still beholden to that group. And as much as I love interacting with the fan base, some things, especially now that like our company is much older, and like a lot of the people here, majority of the people here have families and things like that, that level of exposure is a risk for them, you know. So I would love to do something with the War Machine IP again, and it's a discussion that pops up every couple of years. But I would want to do it. I would want to do it with input from the fan base, but not beholden to their specific expectations that are attached to a dollar amount they have put in prior to the game being developed.
Yeah.
Well, my advice is don't make a MOBA. Stick to that one. Don't make a MOBA.
If I have my choice, we do the action RPG, right? We just go right back to that and like tell a single player story, right? Because that world is so great, right? Matt's been developing that forever. It's as deep or more deep than so much other IP that's out there. You know, it's so complicated and beautiful.
Yeah,
you know?
And you know, now we have Unreal Engine 5, so we can have all the steam coming out of all the warjacks, all the glowy.
That's right.
So
No loading.
let's make that happen sometime. So, we've been talking for an hour, and we really appreciate your time. Like, I feel like we could
absolutely.
again, and we could continue to talk, but I guess
anything. I'm good. So you tell me.
Oh, we definitely will. We'll hit you up. But before you go, I mean, is there what's next for Whitemoon Dreams, or is it all R&D that you can't talk about because next gen consoles are like right around the corner?
There's absolutely a lot of R&D that's happening. So I would say there's a lot of that. We've got a few projects going on here. I really wish I could say something about some of them. They're so exciting.
Well, maybe
keep an eye. We're around.
We're more than happy to talk with you when you can.
Yeah, absolutely. The moment that something is announced, it's hard. A lot of times we have to wait till, like, you know, especially if we're working on a game together with someone.
Yeah.
You know, we have to wait till it's announced. We couldn't say anything about Walking Dead, Saints and Sinners, but we've been working on that for quite some time. You know, and that was a very exciting project for us. But yeah, I'll definitely let you guys know as like stuff is on the horizon, or as soon as something is being released. And, hopefully we can kind of walk you through a little bit of it.
Well, cool. Thanks, Jay. We really appreciate your time and sitting down chatting with us. You also won me $1 because I bet Devon that you would have a hat on, because I don't think I've ever seen. Is it just like the hats are permanently? Is that like your thing? Because I don't. Think
I have
I've
a hat
ever
collection.
seen you-
I have so many crazy hats. People would send me hats from all over the place.
Yeah, because every interview there's a hat. I was like, I don't think he's got a hat on all the time. So it was an easy bet for me. I don't think Devon knew, but so.
No, you misled me, Steven. So
I was hoping a bit more. But thank you so much again for your time, and we really appreciate
Absolutely, my pleasure. Hope to chat with you guys again.
Devon, that was an awesome time talking with Jay. Do you agree?
Yes, it was a great time. Had a great time at the interview. Had lots of laughs. He ended it with a little, 1-2 punch on me, but it's all right.
Well, that we didn't add that part in just in case he gets in trouble with that. So we
It's
learned a
hilarious
lot
how
from
much I
Jay.
drank, because all of a sudden it was like, whoa.
It was like Ratchet and Clank.
That was the best interview of my life that I've
That
ever
was the best 1 hour
yeah.
interview I've ever been a part
This
of.
interview is brought to you by the PlayStation 5 solid state drive. So with speeds that will blow your mind, we were able to transport it to the end of that interview. So thank you, Jay. We are going to talk to Jay again in the future. Super cool guy. Super excited to learn more about that. All right, guys, we've been talking for a really long time. There's a lot of news things that we could talk about, but I think they're probably go too long. So I'm just going to burn through these really quick. Okay. So Cyberpunk 2077 will not be arriving on Google Stadia at launch.
Yeah,
Stadia,
what a loss right there. What the hell?
I don't know what Stadia is doing. I don't know if Stadia
Not
knows
much.
what Stadia is doing, but this is like one of the
You're
biggest
talking to the
gets for
guy
year.
who I absolutely adore Stadia.
and
I'm not memeing. It is the literal fastest way for me to play a video game right now. And I love xCloud. xCloud works great too. But I'm just in here, I'm like, all right, I want to play. And the only weakness Stadia has is it doesn't have all the games that I actually want to play when I want to play them. So it's like, okay, I guess I'll go load that on my PC. Oh, it's got a patch. Why the F am I not on Stadia right now? Like, once you get into a world, and I tell you this in all honesty, where you do not have to update your game, you're going to be that is a literal system seller, because all of it, you're like, no more 30-minute download or your 180 gig update. F you, I'm ready to go.
Freaking
So I actually,
Activision.
now Stadia is not doing itself any favors, and when they said 2077's not making launch day, I'm like, what? That is the biggest title of this year, and it's not going to be on. Well, and then I was like, I guess that, because I was going to buy it on Stadia, I was going to buy 2077 and play it there because I can play it everywhere. But then it's like, it's not there. Well, I guess as Xbox, because of xCloud, the fact that is, I was like, you're just handing it over to your competitor, and okay. Okie dokie.
I think cloud gaming is going to be probably the bit. That's how we're all going to be playing games in some way or form in the future. Living in a place where video game consoles costed upwards to $1,000 to $12,000 for a PlayStation. Let's see, it was a PlayStation 3 at the time during 2004.
Yeah.
But everyone had cell phones that had internet access. I mean, cloud gaming is going to solve a lot of people's problems, and it's going to be huge. So, like, I'm interested to see when Sony starts focusing on that more than they are right now.
Surprised we didn't hear about that today, personally.
Yeah. All right. So
Because
then
they have nothing to say about that.
Yeah.
They partnered with Microsoft, so
Yeah, I mean
anything
they
else
have to get that going. They got to switch everything over and create it all. They have the PlayStation Now, which has a whole bunch of games that you can play on PC. But
they'll get there. Eventually, it's going to get there because that's where we're all going. All right. Rumors of Bloodborne remaster for PlayStation 5 and PC are going all over the internet. Same with rumor. Like, I guess it's not a rumor that Horizon's coming because there's a Steam listing page. We just don't know exactly when it's going to come. There's a bunch of Harry Potter leaks that leaked last week. They contradicted each other, but there's a lot of stuff over there.
You guys have been hearing about the Mass Effect rumors that they're remaking that or remastering that?
Yeah, well, I mean, they have several EA games that they're getting remasters, right? Another leak for that. So Mass Effect was one. Battlefield 3 was one that leaked today, or they're saying it, is coming out whatever with all the DLC and for next gen consoles. So I don't know. It'll be interesting.
Yeah. Lots of rumors. People excited to play Mass Effect. You're going to be able to play Mass Effect in more places. So lots of cool stuff. All right. So there's probably a lot more news, but we talked a lot about the Sony stuff. And we'll dive in. I mean, there's going to be a lot of new leaks and everything coming up these next couple of weeks that we'll talk about next week. But Brian, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure getting to talk to you, everything that Sony dropped and getting your perspective on it, getting your cool level head where I like dive in head first and all these things. Like, let's go. You're like, hey, why don't we just take a step back? This is just like, it's all marketing right now. They're trying to lie to us. They're trying to get us to spend money. These companies don't care about us. They just want our dollars. Where I'm like, no, we buy all the things now, pre-order everything. So thank you for bringing that perspective to the show. Devon, thank you for not like cussing out Sony in this entire time instead of, I know you wanted to. Thank you for showing restraint.
They did. So, it's the internet that makes me mad. All right. It's not Sony. I have their systems. I've had every one of their systems. But yeah, no, it's just I won't go into.
Okay. Brian, will you please tell us where people can find you on the interwebs?
You can check out my content over at Work2Game. That's Work2Game. We're on Twitch at Work and the number 2 game. And I also post over at Ginger Prime, and Ginger Prime is focusing in on action RPGs. Work2Game, you're going to see a lot of Final Fantasy content. And then I just started a new channel. So at the end of the day, I'll end up having like 4 channels, hopefully, but all monetized by this time next year. But I've got Ginger Gaming Radio, in which that I kind of have a couple different podcasts that are focused around a handful of games: Phantasy Star Online, Blue Protocol, looter shooters like Destiny. Because that's, no matter how many times I quit Destiny, it always finds a way to. Yeah, it's got it's got its hooks in me, and I think I'm going to be a Destiny player for life. But the seasonal model, anyway, we just talked about that on the last podcast. Not working for me as a parent. Like anytime and a life event happens, it's like, and yep, I guess I'm out of the rest of this season. Bye, everybody. I'll see you maybe next time. So I've been playing around with some arrivals. Anyway, you can check out Ginger Gaming Radio, Ginger Prime, Work2Game, and then coming maybe later this summer or fall, Prime University. So yeah, I like making content. I think I have a problem.
No,
Nice.
it's a good problem to have, and we will put links to everything that you have currently going on into the show title. So thank you so much for hanging out with us, and chat, thanks for hanging out. And until next time, Devon, don't kill the stream yet. Devon, can you just stop the recording and leave the stream going? Is that something you can do, or do you have to kill all of it?
No, I can stop the recording.
Okay, because I want to talk to chats before we let him go. So until next time, everyone, this is the Freelancer Codex podcast, episode 126. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Thanks for listening. You can find us on Twitter at Freelancer Codex, on Facebook at Freelancer Codex, or through email at freelancercodex@gmail.com. Join the Discord through the link provided at freelancercodex.com. Our show will always be free, but if you'd like to send some support, you may do so at patreon.com/freelancercodex. Our individual Twitter handles are at Steven Lamson, at mlamson25, at Neverfear, and at JD the Joke Dealer. Freelancers, it's time to get to work.
All right.